Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Kami punishes Naruto's parents for abandoning him part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The Uzumaki groaned. It was like one thing after another with his life. Both Sasuke and he had put aside their differences to work together to defeat Uchiha Madara. Imagine their surprise when Black Zetsu not only betrayed and stabbed Madara in the back but returned his mother, Kaguya motherfucking Akatsuki, to the world of the living. Hell, imagine everyone's faces when Black Zetsu admitted to being the physical manifestation of Kaguya's will. He also admitted to instigating many of the events that shaped the shinobi world to secure her revival. From manipulating Indra to go to war with Azura to Madara believing that his Tsuki no Mi Kikaku, Eye of the Moon plan, was a way to bring peace. Looking up at the rabbit goddess, he could say no previous battle he ever had came anywhere close to matching the against her. Not Pain's. Not Orochimaru's. Not Kabuto. Not even Madara was this tough. It was Sasuke and him versus the mother who gave birth to the Rikudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths, the mother of all chakra. Even with the powers they gained from Hagoromo, they were getting tossed around like mere insects. His numerous scars were more than enough to back him up. It was only by quick planning, their instincts, and pure luck they had survived this long. At the end, they were able to surprise Kaguya and used the opportunity to seal her and her Black Zetsu. However, Naruto, being a quick thinker, realized that there was a possibility that a day would come when the seal would fail, as all seals do, and she would be free to begin his terror once again. Only this time no one would be able to stop her. He decided to use a technique, one which he knew was risky, though he had no other choice. So with the help of Kurama, the combined chakra of the Biju, and his Uzumaki sealing knowledge, he used the very technique the Sage of Six Paths used to seal the abomination Kaguya had transformed into within his body. It was a suicidal move, which would no doubt mean his death, his human body unable to handle the enormous supply and intensity of the Shinju, divine tree, the primordial being of his world, chakra within the demigoddess, but he had no choice. At first, she just stared smugly down at them as the seal had seemingly failed after it started shining. However, before the self-proclaimed goddess could make a snide comment, she let out a painful shriek before she was sealed inside the Uzumaki. A number of things transpired after this event, one being Naruto going through a shit ton of pain he had never ever felt before. A Chidori to the chest twice couldn't even match this pain. The second being Sasuke's Six Paths chakra forcefully leaving his body. Hence why he's currently screaming in pain. Oh yeah, the third reason being he unintentionally awakened his Akatsuki genes. You might be wondering how exactly Naruto of all people is related to the alien race which are the Akatsuki. It's quite interesting actually. He was a Uzumaki, whose distant cousin clan were the Senju, who were the descendants of Hagoromo, who was the son of Kaguya. A race that had the ability to adapt to any damn thing, increase brain power for getting out of some of the most fucked situations possible, or bodily adaptations, which was what allowed Kaguya to even gain the ability to wield chakra from the Shinju fruit in the first place. All the chakra Kaguya, Sasuke, and he wield began to bond and become his. Awesome, right? No, the pain was incredibly painful, from the second it entered his body to finally when it stopped. And then it wasn't just them three. Kurama's and the other Biju chakra still within him, and those taken from Kaguya began to adapt to his body, turning him into something completely different. The sudden surge of power threw both his teammates and people around him back violently before he blacked out. As the rest of the alliance and the Edo Tensei Kages arrived on the scene, they saw Hagoromo stopping Team 7 along with a mad Sakura and Sasuke and a worried Kakashi. What the hell is going on? Tsunade yelled. Seeing as how every member of Cell 7 was there except for Naruto, her heart started beating rapidly. Sensei! Naruto Baka did something to Sasuke-kun, and this old man won't let us go past. Sakura screeched, damaging everyone's eardrums with her loud voice. I'd advise you to treat my son and Hagoromo-sama with more respect, little girl, Minato said, glaring at the pinkette. She glared right back and was about to retort until a vicious inhuman roar was heard. Everyone, including Hagoromo, paled as they heard the inhuman noise. What the hell was that? Temari muttered. Naruto-kun, please be okay, Hinata thought. Suddenly a swirling noise was heard behind Tsunade, who was currently facing the alliance. Glancing behind her, everyone got into a fighting stance as a portal opened up and out came Naruto. Or at least what they thought was Naruto. This Naruto was 6 feet 4 inches, a large height improvement from his old 5 feet 10 inches height, even more muscular clearly shown from his now shirtless torso as he sported a 8-pack, which most of the women shamelessly stared at. He had 10 long, fox-like tails swaying comfortably behind him, 2 sets of horns, short ones sprouting from his forehead, sprouting upward, and a larger set from the top of his head like Kaguya. His hair had turned from a thick spiky yellow like his father's to a spikier, thinner, silver-white like the rabbit goddess's, though he had one bang that covered his left eye from time to time. His whiskers had turned thicker, giving him an even more feral look. His left eye, while hidden, held a 4-ringed Rinnegan with 9 tomos. His right eye was, much to Sasuke and Sakura's jealousy and anger, a eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Its design was 3 lines inwardly swirling around a star-like pupil and 3 more thicker lines in the same manner. Around his neck was a necklace which was made up of 6 black magatama. On his back was a black rinnegan marking with a pattern of 9 magatama arranged in rows of 3 beneath it, though it was slightly covered by his newly acquired 6-path shakujo with its second end shaped like a half-moon, each side representing the sun and moon respectively. The air around him carried nothing short of superiority and dominance, his eyes looking upon every single shinobi in sight with a bored gaze, as if he could see straight through them, down into their souls. His new appearance more and more intimidating by the minute. Even Hagoromo was speechless. He had no idea that this would happen. He could feel the fear, hatred, worry, and anger swirling from the shinobi in front of him, though the strongest source of anger was coming from the boy's 2 teammates. What they didn't know had a whole new counterpart by his side now. And Naruto? Minato called out, daring to step forward. Yo, everyone had a near heart attack as they heard the demonic tone his voice carried. Naruto noticed how his voice sounded and looked to Hagoromo to explain for him, who nodded. As the Sannin stepped forward, he glanced around at the men and women of the Alliance who had fear, awe, and anger in their eyes. For some reason, he knew this wouldn't end well for Naruto. To their credit, no one interrupted the man while he explained just exactly what the hell happened to Naruto. From start to finish, both Sasuke and Sakura had something to say but were silenced by glares from Kakashi, Tsunade, and Minato. So let me get this straight, Mei said. Naruto concealed this Kaguya inside of himself, awakened the genes of an alien race, and became this Ashirado no Kami, god of the 10 paths? She asked. Naruto chose to answer this time, yes, that's correct. Kurama before I absorbed him told me that being related to Hagoromo Jiji meant that I was related to Kaguya. The bonding process was incredibly painful. I'm honestly glad I blacked out when I did. What do you mean absorbed, Kurama? Isn't he and the others sealed inside you with Kaguya? Hagoromo asked. As Kaguya did her best to fight against Kurama and him, the other Biju and their fellow containers had joined in to help subdue her. How they did it, where they came from, he didn't know. He was just grateful they came. Shaking his head, he spoke quietly. Kaguya didn't go willingly, so they had to subdue her long enough for me to absorb her entire being. However, they ended up getting absorbed too. I tried to talk them out of it, but they told me it was either they all go or the world does, with me reforming in a couple of years. Judging from the fact I'm still here, you see what choice I made. As they all reformed together, they recreated the Jubi and increased my chakra to levels beyond comprehension. The Uzumaki said, trying not to laugh at the jealousy and hatred displayed from his teammates. The sage couldn't help but look downward at the knowledge his children had died. While he was proud of them for dying for a valiant cause, he felt their deaths were just untimely. Sensing the elderly man's emotions, he put a hand on his shoulder. If it makes you feel any better, all of them, especially Kurama, said they loved and would miss you. That brought a smile to the man's voice, however it was short-lived. Dobe, give me back my power! Sasuke yelled, marching over, followed by who else but Sakura. Why do you need it? The war is over, the world is safe, and considering the fact every village pitched in to become one to beat Madara and Obito, I can safely assume there won't be any type of aggression between them. I need the power because I'm gonna be Hokage. I'm going to kill the 5 Kage, then the Biju, and whoever else decides to get in my way. I'll be the world's only ruler. A world where no one can oppose me. The Uchiha shouted, causing everyone to look at him as if he had grown a second head. Who in their right mind would make you Hokage? The taller male questioned, raising an eyebrow seeing how this was going. Konoha would easily make Sasuke-kun Hokage. He's been loved there since he was a kid. Sakura screeched, causing everyone to go temporarily deaf. It was worse for Naruto now since his hearing was now more enhanced than it ever was. I said in their right mind, you know, as insane, not mentally disabled, or flat out stupid. Konoha is filled with arrogant bigots, fools, and tyrants. From the elders, to the civilian council, to the civilians and shinobi themselves are corrupt to the core. They care not for others but for themselves and their own power ranking. Of course, pathetic people like that would accept someone like Sasuke. Naruto snapped. More than a couple Konoha nin growled at what the Uzumaki said. Sure, their village wasn't perfect, but they weren't gonna let this freak talk down upon their home. Shut up. You've always been jealous of how everyone loved me. You've been seen as nothing more but a freak, a loser, and a peasant in the eyes of Konoha, but also your precious Sakura-chan. Do you really think they'll accept you now? Sasuke shouted, his eyes turning into his Mangekyo spinning rapidly. Naruto laughed, though everyone felt shivers from the dark amusement inside it. I could care less of what any of you think of me, honestly, especially those from Konoha. He glanced at the eye-twitching Pinkette, who everyone could easily tell wanted to start swinging. Something wrong, Hareno? She glared at him before channeling chakra to her fist, before rushing at him with it cocked back. When Sasuke-kun tells you to do something, you do it, she screeched. The Uzumaki simply stared at the charging girl, unfazed by her anger, and honestly disgusted by her actions. The transmission between his original personality to the one he has now was actually a life-changer, honestly. He could easily see both Sasuke and Sakura were lost causes, with Sasuke admitting that he was literally going to attempt to kill the 5 Kage, and anyone else who got in his way, and Sakura the girl obviously was mental. Minato and Kakashi were about to stop her, but a hand from Naruto held them in their place before he glanced back at his teammate who looked hellbent on wanting to hurt him. Let's see you talk back to Sasuke-kun now, Naruto Baka. The white silver-haired nin simply held out his hand and caught the fist easily with a yawn, much to the shock of those present and anger of the girl. She let out a rage-filled cry and began swinging her fists rapidly at him, thinking more than 3 would catch him and hopefully bring him horrible pain, only to be completely stumped as he simply batted them away without a second glance, all the while smirking. Your swings are predictable. Even now, they're unorganized and sloppy. While powerful, you're swinging like Bachan does when she catches Erosen peeping on her. No type of stance. You just rely on brute force, and that is why you're weak, Naruto said as he kicked her away to Sasuke's feet. As the girl lay at the Uchiha's feet, she glanced up hoping to see approval for her actions, only to see him scoff at her, then go back to glaring back at Naruto. That's it. All this time she'd been trying to get his attention. Naruto Baka would always do something to mess it up for her. Well, no more. She was gonna send him into a world of pain, more than what he felt in his childhood. By now the shinobi of the alliance had backed away, sensing a fight between the 3 would be inevitable, and they had no plans on intervening. To do so could have easily meant their lives were forfeit. 3 years spent under the Godame, who was not only the strongest woman in the world but the best medic, who taught you everything she knew and then some in hopes you would make her proud. And how do you repay her? By throwing it out the window first time someone mentioned Sasuke. Every time we saw him, you'd freeze up and start crying. The tails retracted back into his body, his horns slowly shrunk into his head and forehead until they were no longer visible, and the eye slit disappeared as if it was never there. Poor little Sakura, you only joined the academy because your mom told you it would help you win Sasuke's affection. I bet she told you that if you won Sasuke's heart, she'd be proud of you and give you whatever you wanted. I'm not surprised, honestly, seeing as how both your and Ino's mom were fangirls, and quite pathetic ones to say the least. He chuckled, seeing her twitching, no doubt ready to knock his head off. They were both fangirls of Toussaint and Sasuke's dad, always fighting for their affection, shrieking, yelling, you name it. They tried dieting, becoming anorexic, wearing obnoxious amounts of makeup in hopes it would eventually charm them right into their pants. Eventually Fugaku settled down with Mikoto, and Dad started seeing my mom, and naturally it didn't sit well with them that a foreign girl, as they called her, caught his attention, and they didn't. So they started spreading rumors about her in hopes it would make him see her like they did, a disgusting nobody with hideous red hair, ironic seeing how one of them had pink hair. Though to no shocker, it failed and the lies were easily traced back to them. So they did the next best thing in their mind, challenged her to a fight in a public place. Minato snorted. He knew exactly how that ended for the two and why he was so scared of his wife. The woman had promptly beat the girls within an inch of their lives, and when they had tried to lie to the Sandaime, he immediately cleared everything up and told the truth. Afterwards he had told the girls to never talk to him or Kushina ever again unless it was about shinobi business, and that only. Following their oh-so-humiliating public beatdown, Ino's mom reluctantly settled down with Inoichi-san while your mom was determined to get into the pants of someone high status. He was interrupted as the pinkette let a rage-filled cry. You're lying. My mom is the best mom ever. She told me that Sasuke-kun would love me indefinitely. I should have listened when she told me you were a demon. I should have killed you. You were always in my way. Sasuke-kun's way. You're a monster, reject loser. I bet that bitch for a mother of yours was a whore like mom said. She screeched. You little bitch, I should kill you where you stand, Minato snarled inwardly. How dare this little whore call his Kushi-chan a whore? Little did he know, both Hiruzen and Tsunade were also having murderous thoughts. You know the funny thing about that? The only reason your mom even got on the civilian council in the first place was because she slept around with multiple civilians to get power. She tried it with the shinobi, though they easily saw through her pathetic attempts and decided to shoot her down. Then the Kyuubi attack came, Toussaint and Ka-san died, yet there was this blonde child with whiskers that resembled the Yondaime greatly. You still following me here? His answer was Sakura charging him with her fists raised ready to pound him into paste, though she just ended up getting kicked back again. The shinobi and Kages looking on could only watch and listen as the Uzumaki destroyed the girl and her mom's image in front of their eyes, exposing just how sick and twisted both individuals truly were in the head. Even Sasuke was shocked and disgusted. Those two whores were responsible for their daughter's constant fawning over him. So Yor and Ino's mom then devised a plan among their female members of their clan, telling them who my mother was. It was actually a clever plan, seeing as how all those females were fangirls and resented my mother for getting his attention when they failed, so they'd take out their frustration on me. Whenever the mobs rolled around, they'd roll around and help beat me, yelling things about my mother being a whore, how I was the reason their Yondaime-kun was gone. He said in a mocking tone that could only be seen as disrespectful. Sakura, seeing red, charged at him once more with a banshee cry, swinging wildly mad with rage, embarrassment, and hatred. It's even more hilarious seeing how when Sasuke left the village, Ino's mom told her that she could quit being a ninja, seeing how there was no real reason for it, and she almost did before Inoichi intervened. Ino, who was with her fellow Konoha nin, could only widen her eyes in realization. All those memories of her mother forcing her to be more girly, the makeup, the dieting, the forcing to like Sasuke, Sure, she had a crush on the Uchiha, but her mother had all but forced her to the extreme of even yelling out she'd be his wife at times, the encouragement of degrading Naruto. And even at one time telling her that if she saw him bleeding out to flat out kill him. When word got out about the retrieval squad failing to bring him back, her mother had cursed every single one of them and hoped they died a horrible painful death. What type of woman, crush obsessed or not, does that? Especially Naruto. When her mother suggested she quit being a shinobi, she was skeptical, but after her mother telling her Sasuke was gone, there had been no real reason. She almost did until her dad came downstairs with a face of anger she had never seen before, demanding to know why her mother was telling her to give up being a ninja. This had sparked an arguing match between the two. Horrible words were launched back and forth, lines were crossed. Since then her parents never got along that well after that. Whenever her father was around her mom, he always had a look of betrayal and hate in his eyes when he looked at her. Now she knew why. As Naruto saw Sakura glaring at him, he smirked, deciding to see just how far he could break her. Why don't you tell everyone what your mommy said to you after you told her Sasuke left, and you say him leave? The girl's eyes widened before glaring again coldly. I don't know what you're talking about, loser. Stop trying to lie. It's not working. No one believes you. She yelled, inwardly hoping no one would listen, though she knew they would. Naruto's smirk widened. So you mean to tell me she didn't beat and threaten to disown you because you failed in winning Sasuke's heart? When you told her of how you begged Sasuke to let you go with him, she slapped you and drilled it into your head that Sasuke was your destined one no matter who he liked? How she told you that you had better win Sasuke's heart and become his wife or she'd kill you herself? How you were nothing more but a means to fame, and if you couldn't even do that, you had no use to her? Silence, utter silence. Everyone could only stare wide-eyed at the shaking, crying, snarling girl. Just what exactly type of fucked up family did she come from? However, the silence was broken when the girl yelled at an obnoxiously high-pitched voice, I'll kill you! Before running at Naruto the fastest her legs could carry her. Naruto dodged her fists yet again before slugging her, sending her back a couple feet. She growled before charging him again with the intent to kill, swinging like a barbarian. You swing like a drunk man. Naruto taunted before kicking her in the face. Chidori! The faint sound of chirping birds roared up behind Naruto at the last second, who grabbed the offender's wrist and snapped it, ending the jutsu. Sasuke yelled in pain before finding himself face first in the ground with a foot on his face. Poor little Sasuke-chan, once again bested by the dope you loved to mock. Let Sasuke-kun go! Everyone blinked. The pinkette had to be mentally deranged. Taking his foot off the Uchiha's face, Naruto then proceeded to kick the Uchiha halfway across the rocky turf. Naruto following closely behind. Sakura, seeing this, then went to make a dash to go help her crush, but found herself surrounded by the 5 Kage, who all had displeased looks on their faces, even Inoki. What are you all doing? I need to help Sasuke-kun, move! She screeched, making them wince. Why are you going to help Sasuke, Sakura? Are you truly incapable of thinking for yourself? Tsunade asked, though the look in her eyes showed how sad and disgusted she was by her apprentice's actions towards her godson. Because I believe in Sasuke-kun. I'll always believe in him no matter what. It's people like that loser Naruto Baka why Sasuke-kun is always viewed as a bad person. How exactly is Naruto to be blamed for the Uchiha's power-crazed mind? If it's to my understanding from your Hokage told me, the Uchiha was always like this. It was just ignored due to Konoha being filled with power-hungry individuals. Mei said, he's always trying to look cool. He'll never be cooler than Sasuke-kun. Did you know he was the dead last of our class? He always asked me out on dates even when I told him time and time again that I don't like orphan freaks like him. He's only strong because he's a freak. Now he's trying to steal what's rightfully Sasuke-kun's. I won't have it. Sasuke-kun should rule everything. Everyone should bow down to him. He deserves the best. Always. I'll make sure it happens because I love Sasuke-kun. The pinkette screeched with a deranged look in her eyes, not noticing how the eyes of the Kages and shinobi from other villages narrowed dangerously. Talk about mentally unstable, Minato mumbled, getting nods from those around him. Saru, how exactly did this girl become a ninja again? Hashirama asked. The Sandaime looked both embarrassed yet saddened. Due to my old age, I was unable to manage every matter that came up, so I gave the responsibility of the academy to the civilian council. He said, and was immediately smacked upside the head by Tobirama. So because of your negligence, people like that, he pointed at the fist-shaking Sakura, ended up becoming a ninja. Oh, come on. She's not that bad. She just need a lot of mental rehabilitation sessions. Hashirama shouted before wincing when his brother glared at him. She needs more than that. She should have never been allowed to continue this far. She's clearly not right in the head, and the fact she has Tsunade's super strength and rivals her in medical knowledge isn't exactly good for anyone. The Night-Aim said, watching as the girl flinched before glaring at Mei, who obviously said some hurtful things. Between him and Kakashi, I'm not sure who to blame. Minato said, glaring at his former student. What did Kakashi do? Said gray-haired Nin was also confused. Well, for starters, Kakashi only passed the team because Sasuke was on the team, if we're all being fully honest. Then he allowed both the Uchiha and Hiruno to verbally and physically abuse Naruto whenever he did something they didn't like. He had allowed her to follow Sasuke around like a lost puppy and him to treat everyone as if they were below him. Kakashi could only shudder in fear as all four Kage glared at him. Second, you like to preach about teamwork and those who abandon their comrades are trash, yet you completely left Naruto to go personally train the Uchiha even though you knew how bad Naruto needed a sensei to help him fix everything the academy had sabotaged for him. Instead, you scolded him whenever he didn't do something right, and let his teammates belittle him every opportunity they got. And finally, you blew Naruto off to go train Sasuke for the second round of the Chunin exams and had the nerve to give custody over him to someone who openly hated him because of what he contained, all because you had no confidence that he could win his fight. The Jonin could only look down in shame at the realization he had no real hand in Naruto's training. His sensei was absolutely right. Because of his commitment to trying to pay back Obito and believing that Naruto wasn't going to get far at all, he had abandoned him to the wolves without a second glance. He, like all the other Jonin, had believed Naruto's match against Kiba to be pure luck and had actually bet his money on Neji winning easily and humiliating Naruto while doing it. Enko had honestly been the only one who actually believed in Naruto and got laughed at for it. He winced. The woman had won a shit ton of money that day and she had Naruto to thank for it. Sarutobi began to chuckle sadly. It's amazing honestly, he said, drawing attention to him. Even though we all screwed up in our own way, me with informing them he was the jailer, Kakashi favoritizing Sasuke, and the villagers and shinobi alike doing their best to make sure his life was miserable, full of scorn and hate, he never let that hold him back, and now look, he's become the strongest being the shinobi world has ever seen. The deceased Kage shed a tear looking over to where Naruto had went to fight Sasuke with a pained expression. I hope you can forgive this old man, Naruto-kun. Naruto looked over at the figure of Uchiha Sasuke who snarled at him, his eyes glaring at him with hatred. I'm going to enjoy killing you and dragging your pathetic corpse in front of everyone you love. Then I'll piss on it before I kill them, Sasuke shouted with a deranged look beginning to show in his eyes. Naruto simply looked at his old teammate with disgust. He'd never understand what the females in Konoha ever saw in him. Then again, many, if not all of the females in Konoha were shallow, power-hungry, spoiled girls who wanted to have everything, not caring who they hurt in the process. Hagoromo could only watch in sadness. It seemed the cycle was to go on forever. One of the reincarnations, if not both, would die fighting one another. However, he was not blinded by a prophecy, so to speak. He, as well as anyone with a brain, could see how twisted Indra's reincarnation had become. Like the rest of his clan, he had been tainted and corrupted by the curse of hatred. There was little if nothing anyone could do. He had unfortunately seen what Sasuke had done while serving under Orochimaru. The pain and suffering he inflicted onto innocents were the actions of a sick and twisted being. Someone who had no possible way of redemption. He smiled as he looked at the stone-faced reincarnation of Azura. The boy had went through hell his entire life, whether it was neglect, physical or mental abuse, starvation, and just exposed to the cruel horrors humanity had to show at such a young age. There were times where the old sage was positive the boy would eventually snap and release Kurama to exact revenge. Yet he didn't. Instead, he put a mask to hide his suffering, choosing to believe that by becoming Hokage, he would gain the respect he so righteously deserved from everyone. There were doubts at every corner for the boy, whether it was because of what he held within him or due to the fact of suffering from isolation the majority of his childhood. He was different from everyone else, though he couldn't help but think about Naruto's earlier words about Konoha. No doubt the village would attempt to kill him, seeing as how there were a lot of die-hard Uchiha supporters within the village. Sighing once again, he turned his attention back to the fight to see Naruto and Sasuke trading blows, though Naruto wasn't even really trying and was still overpowering the Uchiha. Suddenly the old sage sensed something approaching fast and rolled his eyes upon recognizing who it was. It was that pink-haired girl that seemed to be obsessed with Indra's reincarnation. Wait, some of her hair was missing along with some of her clothes. He immediately suppressed a strong urge to barf. No one should be that flat. Hearing a roar of pain, he winced as he saw Sasuke lose his hand before he was kicked into the fast-approaching Sakura. The two collided quite painfully as they groaned, attempting to get up. I expected better, honestly, with you being an Uchiha and all. Maybe with your little pet here you might actually put me on the defensive, Naruto taunted. Funniest thing about Team 7, each member had their own personal egos, and if you disrespected them in any way, they could easily be beaten into submission due to their pride getting the best of them. With Sasuke killing Orochimaru, fighting both Madara and Kaguya and living, his ego was at an all-time high to say the least. He'd do his usual facial expression of hatred, go on a rant, and charge in with a sense of superiority. Sakura was the same. With the announcement of her being an apprentice to the Godame, he'd hear about her treating other people under her command like slaves, doing little to nothing work-wise unless Shizen or Tsunade came to oversee her. Even himself, back when he was weak, he had an ego. An ego that never let him lose or give up, despite everyone always putting him down. It honestly made him wonder how much luck did he truly have. He watched in amusement as the two charged him with kunai, though he felt the need to puke as he examined Sakura's new look. The right side of her hair was missing, face looked swollen, black eye, and it looked like she would collapse any minute. I bet the old hag regrets giving her lessons now. the Uzumaki thought as he swiftly and calmly dodged the kunai strikes. He could see them getting more and more upset as they missed, so he decided to taunt them some more. For a so-called elite, you can't even touch me. Those eyes of yours not working? You haven't used them yet. He could see the Uchiha practically steaming from the ears. Shut up. I'll kill you. Naruto was right though, Sasuke was low on chakra and to even attempt to use any kind of jutsu would be suicide. You kill me? Hilarious, you only beat me those times when we fought was because I just wanted to knock you unconscious, meanwhile you were trying your hardest to kill us. After all these years, I'm finally ending our bond permanently. Just shut up and die. Sakura yelled behind Naruto as she threw a punch meant to knock his head off, though both her and Sasuke were more than shocked when a katana sliced through her stomach and was then sent through her heart before a Rasengan to the head finished her off. The Uzumaki merely glanced at the dead corpse before staring back at the Uchiha, who looked on in fear, especially after a surge of electricity covered his former teammate's hand. For the first time since the Uchiha massacre, Uchiha Sasuke ran in fear for his life. Naruto smirked as he watched the so-called strongest of them two run with his tail tucked between his legs. It was actually amusing to see him trip over his own feet. But alas! All good things come to end eventually. Flashing in front of the Uchiha, he palmed his head, staring him in the eyes. The rest of your clan is waiting for you in hell. What happened after that could only be described as the most painful thing Sasuke had ever felt. It was as if everything on his body was being pulled apart. He could feel his grip on his life was slipping away little by little, just to make the pain all the more excruciating. Naruto felt no remorse or regret as he watched his former teammate's soul leave his body. But then again, why should he? Who in their right mind would risk their life trying to help an unstable, power-hungry, self-entitled who drove not one but two Chidoras through your chest with the intent to kill? He turned around as he saw Hagoromo approaching him. I was hoping that one day the descendants of my sons would one day be able to walk the world together peacefully. The sage started with a sigh. However, now I see such a thing isn't possible and might never be possible. That's just how the cycle is, Gigi. But I feel there's a more important subject you wish to talk about. Naruto replied. Hagoromo nodded. You've grown incredibly strong. I fear those you call your allies will turn on you for their greedy devices. I merely wish for you to be aware of those who would betray you. The Uzumaki nodded, understanding the sage's warning. If or when the time comes, they'll be dealt with. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? If the entire Shinobi Alliance turned on me with the intent to use me as a weapon, how do you think I should respond? Exactly, peace never comes without pain and suffering. If this war hasn't brought enough of that, then they must be dealt with. Hagoromo sighed sadly but couldn't but agree. If they still didn't know how to work together and end the cycle of war and bloodshed, the shinobi would have to be dealt with. Naruto merely walked over to Sasuke's body, removing his eyes before crushing them, then burning his body. Better to be safe than sorry. So what will you do now? He asked Hagoromo. The cycle of over. The curse of hatred has been exterminated. I no longer see a reason to prolong my death. I also believe the elemental nations are safe in your hands. Naruto nodded sadly. I see. Hagoromo walked over and placed his fingers over Naruto's forehead, causing him to get a slight headache as he became overwhelmed with knowledge. Goodbye, Naruto, Hagoromo said as he began to fade. Goodbye, Hagoromo Gigi. Shinobi from the 5 villages gathered around their respective Kage, who glanced back and forth at one another. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've had enough of violence and bloodshed for a lifetime, Mei said, ending the silence. I agree with Mei. After all this, I can go without war. Tsunade supported. Speak for yourself, Senju. Iwa and Konoha will never be on friendly terms, and you can thank your yandere for that, Anoki said, glaring at the big-breasted Hokage and her shinobi. He couldn't glare at the real man because he had returned to the afterlife. The coward. His claim was supported by multiple Iwa shinobi, his granddaughter, Kuratsuchi, the loudest of them all. Nor will Kumo have any peace talks with Konoha, Mist, or Suna. Both Anoki and I only agreed to this farce of an alliance because of the danger Madara and his supporters posed. Our respective villages have lost very little shinobi compared to yours. What's stopping us from wiping you all out and taking what we want from your villages? A said, leering perversely at Hinata. Gaara merely closed his eyes as a smirk graced his face. Find something funny, Kazekage-sama? Kakashi said, drawing everyone's attention to the red-headed man. Indeed, they're forgetting the biggest flaw with their so-called plan, he said. And what is that exactly? Me. Everyone's head snapped in the direction and paled at the Ki being sent off in numerous waves. There stood one pissed-off Naruto whose eyes narrowed dangerously at the Iwa and Kumo Nin, and judging from the murderous gaze he gave to both A and Inoki, it was safe to assume he heard everything. So let me get this straight, he chuckled. Even after fighting Uchiha Madara, Obito, the 10 Tails, and being trapped in cocoons and almost being turned into white Setsu, you still want to fight? Better yet, you want to start the 5th fucking shinobi war? Both sides flinched under his commanding gaze until Kuratsuchi stepped forward. Don't try to guilt-trip us Namikes. It's because of freaks like you this entire thing started. If we had just gave you up willingly like I suggested, no one would have died. She shouted. Everyone, including her own grandfather, gave her. Are you serious? Looks, if you truly believe that if you gave me up to them and no one would have died, you're obviously mental. But then again, seeing how you'd more than likely kill kids if they so much as resembled my father, I'm not surprised. Naruto grumbled before shrugging off the enraged look on her face. So what will it be, you waltz back to your villages alive or I send you all back in body bags? He asked, his intents making them sweat. As if. There's no way this idiot can be. Kuratsuchi's rant was stopped by her seeing her death before her eyes repeatedly. In fact, everyone in the area was unfortunate to catch a glimpse of how they would die if they wouldn't comply. Will be taking our leave, stuttered before he and his Kumo shinobi retreated from the battlefield. Inoki, Kuratsuchi, and Iwa followed after quickly, not only out of fear but to scheme and plan on killing the last Namake's heir. Naruto merely watched them flee until they were finally out of view. However, his attention was grabbed elsewhere as he sensed people approaching them. Turning, he saw Tsunade, Kakashi, Gaara, and Temari looking at him. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing. After a couple minutes of awkward silence, it was Kakashi who broke it. Yo. He chuckled as the others facepalmed at laziness of the gray-haired nin. Naruto-san? Mei asked. Yes, Mizukage Dano? He respectively replied. We were wondering what you would do now that the war is over and stuff. Mei silently berated herself as she felt her face burn up at his gaze. Naruto thought about it for a minute before shrugging. I might head for Whirlpool and relax there until something that requires my intervention pops up, he said. To say everyone was shocked, but none more than those that knew him. Don't you want to be Hokage? Tsunade shouted before flinching as his Rinne turned its gaze onto her. No, I don't understand. After all that time of you shouting about being Hokage and now you can finally being able to, you don't want to anymore? Temari asked while trying and failing to not blush at how the blonde-turned white-haired shinobi's eyes roamed her body seemingly in appreciation. I was still naive back then, Temari, hopelessly believing I had a chance to be accepted. My ascension, as I like to call it, has made many things clear to me. Both about Konoha and those that live within the village. And what would that be? Kakashi asked. He knew any chance of Naruto being accepted in Konoha was slim to none, especially after his new transformation and killing Sasuke to save the world from another Madara. Regardless of what I do, I won't be accepted within that village. So why keep bothering? I'm better off on my own. I support his decision. Temari turned shocked at her little brother. Gaara, you can't be serious. You aren't against this or shocked at all? She all but shouted. I am very serious, Temari. Naruto has sacrificed his life more than once for the world. Who are we to deprive him of what he chooses to do? Gaara said. Besides, the redhead's upper lip twitched. Even if we were all against this, I highly doubt we could stop him. He added. I guess the pig-tailed fan-wielder muttered before she squeaked as she felt the arm wrap around her waist and pull her close to a warm and muscled body. Don't worry, Temari, I'll still show up and see you and Gaara from time to time, Naruto said before leaning in to whisper in her ear, though I'll stop and see you anytime I can. Temari's face adopted a look of embarrassment, while her eyes could be seen as if they were thinking heavily about something. So how exactly do you plan on getting to Yuzu? Tsunade asked, trying to ignore the fact that Naruto had just flirted with Temari right in front of her brother. Besides, didn't her and Shikamaru have a thing going on? Once again Naruto shrugged before letting go of Temari while mentally smirking at how sad she looked at the loss of him. I'll just find a way, I guess, anyways, peace. With that, the white-haired shinobi disappeared in a swirl. It was at this moment Tsunade realized something big and couldn't help but groan. The council's gonna make me empty my sake cabinet. 5 years after the Fourth Shinobi War, after he effectively isolated himself away from known civilization, Naruto began learning just what he could and could not do. Eventually he found out, thanks to the Jubi, 10 Tails, who he had named Shin, he had learned that due to Kaguya's near-endless chakra reserves combined with the unlimited chakra from Madara, his possibilities were endless. During he had discovered he was immortal as he was constantly testing life-threatening jutsu almost every single day. He had mastered all elements and sub-elements, both his Rinne Sharingan and Eternal Mangekyo powers, found out he was a sensor-type shinobi, and even accessed Limbo, that invisible world of shadows. He had originally thought about using the Byakugan, but both him and Shin decided not to. Compared to the Sharingan and Rinnegan, it wasn't anything special. Sure, it granted him 360 vision, but against a dojutsu like the Sharingan that gave him the ability to see chakra, ability to read lips, anticipate an enemy's move, and copy almost any jutsu from ninjutsu to taijutsu and genjutsu, it wasn't that cool. Compared to the Rinnegan that could master any jutsu along with all 5 elements, along with its ability to use 6 bodies which had different bodies with their own powerful abilities, the Byakugan was really a child's toy. And, now that I'm really thinking about it, the Rinnegan is so overpowered it's not even funny. Today, however, wasn't a day Naruto could train. The world was so silent you could only hear rain and the sound of feet pressing against the soul as it walked past countless dead shinobi, men and women, from different villages. The blood still dripping from their bodies indicating they had been killed not long ago. The headbands ranged from Kumo, to Iwa, to Kiri, to Suna, to minor shinobi villages, and finally Konoha. Now you might be wondering just what the fuck happened as to why so many shinobi from different villages were dead, and who exactly did it. The answer is quite simple. Their cause of death was one Uzumaki Naruto. It had seemed Kaguya had kin who were still alive and had planned to steal the Shinju fruit to gain more power. Only problem with that was that the Shinju was now in turn a part of Naruto, as in something that could not just be removed. Therefore they had sought to kill Naruto and absorb his powers and body. He would not allow this to happen, so he took them both on without hesitation. From their respective planets to his, the war, if you wish to call it that, from the way the terrain had been utterly destroyed, you'd think it had lasted days, weeks, months, between Naruto's armies and theirs. You might also be wondering, what army did Naruto have? Zetsu. Naruto gathered all the remaining Zetsu that had roamed the elemental nations and Kaguya's personal dimensions of innocent humans she had trapped in her infinite Tsukuyomi, and were turned into Zetsus. After being there for so long, they were now lost creatures with no real purpose. Naruto had later on found out that Kaguya had planned something like this happening, therefore wanted to have armies ready should she have to fight them. The Uzumaki had came to death many times and on the end of many taunts when he was down, only to get back up, showing incredible willpower. Plus, having absorbed a Edo Tensei Madara that had unlimited chakra helps too. In the end, Naruto had defeated both Akatsuki after finding out their names, Momoshiki and Kinshiki, and upon having hundreds of the Sanda of Zetsu when he first went to war, he merely had hundreds. He was mentally exhausted and just wanted to relax, however it seemed he was deemed for yet another task, saving one Hyuga Hinata from a love-obsessed Akatsuki Tonari, a branch member of the clan. Apparently he had been watching Hinata from the moon for years and had finally decided to make her his bride. I still don't understand that part at all. He had assumed that since Naruto was preoccupied with fixing the damage left by literal invasion that had occurred, things would go smoothly, and he'd have his bride. The fucked up thing was Hinata actually wanted to be his bride. Normally he wouldn't have that many objections to such a thing. However, Tonari had expressed a deep hatred for humanity, and wanted to wipe them all out. Even if Naruto only had a few friends left in the world, he still had to save it. It was like a hidden unspoken guideline you had to follow. While fighting the branch member, Naruto quickly realized Tonari was easy to rile up with taunts which led up his focus and allowed openings the Uzumaki exposed to the fullest. He defeated and imprisoned the Akatsuki on the moon, and made him watch over them as if he were a guardian. Naturally this made the man furious as he attempted to lash out, calling Naruto all kinds of names. None that fazed him though, he had heard worse. He had dumped Hinata back off at Konoha in the arms of Tsunade, and was gone without a second thought. As he returned to Yuzu, he finally got his rest and relaxation. When he awoke he was more than shocked to see Gaara, Guy, Temari, Mei, Lee, and Niji over him, making sure he was fine. He had taken of Niji's caged bird seal and simply put a Kage-level genjutsu over it so no one would know the difference. In turn, he had earned Niji's utter loyalty and devotion. After a lot of time consuming and physical straining, Naruto had gifted Guy the power of leg movement once again. Even if it was only a little, he had helped Temari get over her breakup with Shikamaru after she found out the Nara had cheated on her with Ano of all people. She had went on for hours about how whenever she had asked to spend time with him, he merely called it or her troublesome, or how he just wanted to watch the clouds. In the end she didn't kill Shikamaru, but Gaara broke his legs. Good enough, right? Mei was strange to say the least. He knew for a fact the woman was attracted to him, considering how she made sure to flaunt her body every time he was near, from splashing water on her dress to show just hard her were by his mere presence to even grinding against him when they were alone. Lee was there because he wanted to show Naruto how much youthful support he had, whatever that means. Gaara was simply there to show his brother he had his support during his darkest hours. Gaara, Mei, Guy, and Temari however came for another thing this time. It was to discuss the gathering of the 5 villages and their new current target. One Uzumaki Naruto. The nations had deemed Naruto too dangerous, and as such decided it would be best to attack him while he was weak and still recovering. Boy, were they wrong. Their plan in their minds were quite genius. They'd attack and force him into submission before forcefully ripping the 9 Bijou out from within him and forcing them back into containers, who would be beaten into submission and know their place. They would then torture him and learn everything he knew before finally killing him. When Naruto asked who was overseeing such an event in Konoha, it was revealed his own godmother. Tsunade had devised such a plan with the edging of his former comrades, the Konoha 11 and their Jonin senseis with the exception of Guy. Apparently they didn't like how strong he was and decided they were going to make sure he was back below them as he should be. Konoha had bribed Kumo help them by offering both Hyuga Hinata and Hanabi to the Raikage in marriage, who immediately agreed, and IWA would hang Naruto's dead body over the Tsuchikage Tower for all their civilians and shinobi to see. The councils of Mist and Suna, after realizing Gaara, Temari, and Mei wouldn't go to war against Naruto, had become fearful of being targeted by one of the 3 villages and kicked them out of office forcefully, and were prepared to have them assassinated. Both assassinations failed, but at the cost of people close to both sides. Gaara and Temari lost their brother Kankuro, who covered their escape from Suna, and Mei lost her guards, Ao and Chojuro, when she was attacked by her own ANBU. Lee, Niji, and Guy told Naruto about what had conspired back at Konoha with his former friends and comrades, and he couldn't help but laugh. Despite the damning evidence of being manipulated by her mother, Ino had decided to blame Sasuke's death on him and decided to train to one day avenge her Sasuke-kun. Fangirls truly were a different breed. Inuzuka Kiba, with the influence of his mother and Jonin sensei, Inuzuka Tsum and Yuhi Kurinai, had been told over and over such a thing like Naruto wasn't supposed to be above him in terms of power and needed to be reminded of that. 10-10. Following the crowd of those who already disliked Naruto found herself hating the Uzumaki simply for the fact they were both orphans, yet he had so much power, and she didn't. From that point on, she began pushing herself more and more in order to show him why orphans stayed nobodies. Hinata, like Kiba, had been manipulated by not only her sensei but her clan. They had beat her into submission, then took advantage of her fragile mind, spreading lies of how no one would love her because of how worthless she was. From that point on, the girl had abused the caged bird seal as much as her younger sister, father, and elders of her clan did. Nara Shikamura had become furious at how Temari had moved on quickly from him to Naruto. At first he had theorized it down to the Uzumaki was merely a rebound, but after seeing just how happy the woman was with Naruto more than she ever was with him, he had vowed to make the blonde pay for being troublesome. Aburame Shino, like his clan, had no ill manner towards Naruto, however logic states that they had to turn on him in order for their clan to remain safe within Konoha's walls. The last person to display kindness for Naruto had been made an excuse of publicly. His name? Yumano Irika, Akimichi Choji, one to quickly follow the crowd to avoid being made fun of for his eating habits and being overweight, quickly started slandering Naruto, even going as far as to blame Naruto for the death of his sensei, Sarutobi Asuma. Midarashi Enko, in his opinion she was the funniest case. Once seeing how she still wasn't accepted in Konoha despite the fact they all hated Naruto more than her, she began slandering his name in hopes of being accepted. Instead, what little friends the Tokubetsu Jonin did have ended up unfriending her, seeing how desperate she was, leaving her in a state of depression. Those friends included Kurenai, Hana, and Yugao, her first friends since she had been left behind by Orochimaru. The bitch was so depressed she begged Orochimaru, he was revived at the time, to take her back as an apprentice, only for the man to laugh and call her pathetic before tossing her out on her ass. Afterwards the woman had given up and began whoring herself out to whoever paid her the most money, because in some way in her fucked up mind, this was the best way for someone to show her how much they accepted her. To just put her out of misery, he killed her. Unfortunately, he wasn't fast enough with killing her because he had to hear her rant about the way her life had turned out was somehow his fault, and how he would pay for all the pain he had caused her. Count that on top of how every single shinobi coming back from the war cried and whined about how he had killed the Uchiha, Haruno, and reached a new level of power they would never reach in their existence, and you got a village of rabid dogs. Also adding in how Kumo and Iwa personally felt about Naruto, that was a large size of shinobi who were more than ready to attack Yuzu and take what they wanted. Multiply that with the large portion of shinobi coming from neighboring villages, Kiri and Suna, you'd think they were going back to war against Madara and Obito. Imagine the look of surprise of their faces when Naruto appeared before them, perfectly healthy and not weak like they expected. They then had the audacity to demand he surrender and die like the creature he was. So he just decided to start killing people. Another thing they didn't know was that during the years of his isolation, he had silently roamed their villages, copying their jutsu with his Sharingan eye and mastering them quickly. He especially had fun ransacking the Uchiha compound and stealing the jutsu they had and had stolen from others during the years. From clan jutsu to even their most strongest and forbidden techniques, Naruto knew it all and used it better than anyone ever could. After all, he was in fact a god with unlimited potential now, right? He had also entered the Namikaze compound by unlocking the blood seals and taking the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Jutsu, and all the other jutsu his parents had left behind for him. During the fight, slaughter, if you asked any bystander, Naruto had done the same thing Madara had used in the 4th Shinobi War, using Tengai Shinsei, Shattered Heaven. That jutsu was still highly effective. When Inoki attempted to stop it once more, seeing how in his old mind, this meteorite wouldn't be anywhere near as strong as Madara's if it was strong at all. This was obviously his undoing, as he was crushed and killed by the meteorite along with a large portion of his shinobi. Enraged at the loss of yet another family member at the hands of a Namikaze, Kuratsuchi attacked Naruto with fury, throwing out every jutsu she had in her arsenal. He merely dodged and avoided every single jutsu she tossed at him with a mocking smirk before beating her within an inch of her life, along with those idiotic enough to step in. He was however interrupted from dealing the killing blow by the arrival of Orochimaru, who was leading the Kiri and Sunanin. The Snake Sanin's appearance merely delayed the inevitable, as he killed the now deceased Tsuchikige's granddaughter with a Chidori before turning his attention towards the stunned Konoha shinobi who had arrived. His eyes glanced towards the bodies of his old comrades, lifeless and covered in blood. His eyes glanced over to Shikamaru's body to see a smirking Temari who flung it up in the air with her fan before Gaara crushed it with sand. Like he thought, they were arrogant, idiotic, and believed they were better than him. He easily tore through them and left them to bleed slowly and painfully. He then glanced at the bodies of Hatake Kakashi, Yuhi Kurenai, and Hinata. Flashback. About time you got here. I was beginning to think you were just gonna watch as everyone dies then run back home. Naruto said, watching as his former comrades began surrounding him, trying to intimidate him. How idiotic. Naruto merely looked at their faces before glancing at his supposed godmother in disgust before finding the sky more entertaining than the worms around him. However, the Konoha 7, Niji, and Lee had disappeared the night before their march on Yuzu, took the time to look at the loser of their generation. He now wore black ANBU pants, fingerless gloves, a black t-shirt with a dark gray vest over it, His hair once white now red, as he did it out of respect for his fellow Uzumaki clan members, since he would be residing in Yuzu for as long as he wanted. His hair still as spiky as before, with his bangs covering his left eye, giving them occasional glimpses at his Rinna Sharingan, and the tomo spinning slowly. The horns showing off his Akatsuki bloodline. I'm gonna show you just how much of a loser you are, dope. Kiba snarled. You'll be begging for mercy after I'm done impaling you with all these weapons. Tenten threatened. I'm gonna turn you back into the talentless orphan loser Sasuke-kun, Sakura, and I'm made fun of. Ino taunted. Fate has determined you to be inferior to the power of the Hyuga clan. You are a loser, an abomination, and will be eradicated. Hinata said without a shred of emotion. It would be illogical to try to fight back. We can easily contain the Nine Tails' power. You have no chance of winning. Shino said. Let's just get this over with, you troublesome freak. Shikamura said. Just make this easy for yourself and give up, brat. You might have beaten the Tsuchikage and his daughter, but you can't possibly hope to beat the Reikage, me, and your old teammates. If you come quietly, we'll make your death quick. Tsunade said with no shred of remorse of her voice. Naruto blinked before chuckling softly before erupting into laughter, enraging the people around him. You actually think I still rely on Kurama's chakra? Or better yet, that I'm weaker than you? Newsflash, you aren't dreaming and this is reality. The weak ones in this fight are you, and it's time you were all reminded how weak you truly are. He said, summoning a katana. Great, now I get to hear you scream. Die, loser! Kiba shouted as he rushed Naruto with the same mindset he had years ago during the Chunin exams. He'd kill Naruto with one attack. Kage main no jutsu, shadow paralysis jutsu. Shikamura called out. Shintenshin no jutsu, ninja art, mind transfer jutsu. Ino smirked, preparing to embarrass the redhead before they killed him. The others watched on in glee as how the cause of all their problems would be eradicated until it didn't happen. In a moment of blinding speed no one could keep up with, Kiba was cut up in several pieces, Shikamura was being choked by his own shadow, and Ino was spazzing out on the ground with foam coming out of her mouth and her eyes completely white. Kill him! Tsunade shouted as more ninja began to charge at Naruto, who was still smirking. In an incredible and almost impossible display, Naruto began cutting down shinobi from every village while dodging the occasional palm strikes from Hinata. It wasn't like they could hurt him, but he preferred not to be touched by these scum. He held out his hands, which caught the fists from both A and Tsunade, and F slammed them face first into one another before dodging a spiked mace from Tenten. You should have stayed a loser orphan like you were meant to be. She snarled before charging him again. Why? It's so much more fun watching weaklings gang up on you as if they have a chance. Naruto taunted and smirked where she started swinging the mace wildly in an attempt to kill him. Shut and die. Jumping over her and reverse thrusting his sword through her chest before beheading her, he snorted in boredom. You first, Tenten. You'll pay for that, you monster. Choji yelled as he and Shino arrived with more shinobi. Shino's eyes widened behind his bugs were incinerated upon impact from Naruto's skin, and the smirk the redhead was sending him showed he knew it. Naruto's right eye began to bleed as he yelled, Amaterasu, heavenly illumination. Dark flames began to rush towards the currently petrified group. They began throwing water jutsu after water jutsu at the flames, though it did nothing but seem to make them ignite more. Upon contact, the Nin began crying and begging for the pain to stop. He frowned as Shino simply let the flames consume him, while Choji tried to use his clan's jutsu in an attempt to escape. In the end, both them and their comrades were burned into ashes. With them dead, that only left one more. Hack Rokujian Sho, Gentle Fist Art, 8 trigrams 64 palms. Ah, there she was. 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. Hinata's strikes were swift and strong as she hoped to cause Naruto extreme pain and suffering, but to her anger he showed physical signs of pain. He didn't even move an inch. My turn. Her eyes widened as he let off vicious palm strikes against her chest and stomach, forcing her cough up spit and blood before sending her flying with a right hook. He snorted as he easily dispelled a genjutsu and turned to see a snarling Kurenai and Kakashi with both Mangekyo spinning as the rest of the alliance closed in on them with the appearance of a limping Tsunade, A, and Orochimaru. If their numbers weren't down to 300 or less, he might have been impressed by their willpower. However, it was clear they were on a do or die call now. Extending his arms, he uttered the words that would shake and destroy the alliance. Shinra Tensei, Almighty Push. Flashback end. The effects the jutsu had were huge. It killed the last remainder of their army, including Tsunade, who had never truly recovered from the battle versus Madara, A, and Orochimaru. Kakashi, Kurenai, and Hinata miraculously survived, though were quickly dealt with. He sat down on the steps of the Yuzukage Tower before Temari sat down next to him, resting her head on his shoulder. If someone told me Naruto of all people would become strong enough to beat the entire alliance and win, I'd laugh in their face. Now that I'm seeing it, I don't even know how to respond. Niji said, Naruto-kun's youthfulness is unmatchable. Lee yelled, what would make Tsunade do something like this? Gaara wondered out loud. Before, I would have cared to know why my godmother would go and betray me. Now I could care less. Naruto said as he rested on his palms. What about the rest of the nations and daimos? I doubt they'll be any less cooperative. The shorter of the redheads pointed out. You let me worry about that, but know this. The Uzumaki got up from the stairs and looked into the sky, his mouth forming a vicious grin. Yuzu will be reborn. Awesome. That would be the only way to explain the redhead's last few years of immortality in heaven. After he wiped out the Shinobi Alliance, many horrendous secrets surrounding Konoha and Kumo emerged. From Kumo to Konoha, secret after secret was exposed. Starting with Kumo kidnapping women and children they suspected with bloodlines and turning them into breeding stock where they would never see daylight again. Next came Konoha and Danzo's kidnapping of orphans all around the elemental nations for his root program, his illegal and inhumane dealings and experiments with Orochimaru, the civilians and Shinobi Council's dark dealings behind the Yandames, Sandames, and Dodames' backs. Though after the war, Tsunade couldn't stop them due to the overwhelming amount of support they had and later joined them. Never mind the fact Konoha lost all their allies after the war after they called for Naruto's death after he killed the last Uchiha. He also found out the reason why Tsunade would agree to kill him. Going through her personal journal, he discovered she became a weak-willed bitch after the war, especially when the Raikage made sexual advances on not only Hinata but her as well. It just made her feel young again. Though there was one line that just really pissed him off. If I have to sell Naruto short to feel the joy of being young again, so be it, he'll understand. Besides, as a Jinchuriki, his happiness is supposed to be sacrificed in order for others to feel good. I'll just tell him when he's too broken to do anything about it. That was when any and all respect he had for the woman died. After only a few things were leaked, within the first week, you had people seeking refuge inside Yuzu as they had nowhere else to go and definitely didn't want to be near either one of those villages. Zetsu had hinged into Yuzu ANBU guards and were stationed everywhere in case of a sneak attack from some vengeful idiots or the occasional thugs. And there were plenty of idiots. Konoha's citizens cried for blood after finding out he not only wiped out the alliance but exposed their dark secrets. They had sent the last remaining root alive to infiltrate and destroy as much of Yuzu as they could, including all the demon lovers inside. The plan failed and the Uzumaki let his displeasure and anger be known by walking right into Konoha, killing the last of their ANBU forces, clan heads and their clans, and finally the civilians within the village. The only thing more embarrassing than the way they thought their numbers alone would beat him was how they acted like cursing and damning his name would change the fact they were going to die. He had offered the branch family of the Hyuga clan freedom from their caged bird seals, but in a show of weakness and cowardice, they decided to fight against him. Idiots. After Konoha fell, whether they were allies of Naruto or they simply decided to align with Yuzu simply out of fear for their families, Yuzu had numerous peace treaties waiting to be signed in hopes of avoiding utter annihilation. The Uzumaki eventually married Temari in May after he kept his promise and gave Cheyenne a baby, provided he stay in Yuzu till he's old enough to avoid outside corruption, to continue ruling Demon Country. Yuzushi Ogakure had thrived for decades, even after his wives and friends had all passed and he was left behind to rule alone. That had been a millennial ago. Once known as Uzumaki Naruto, destroyer of the 5 villages and the Yandame Uzukage, he was now known as Akatsuki Naruto, the Ashirado no Kami, god of the 10 paths, and god of chaos. After the elemental nations had fallen, swept aside, and forgotten by the development of humanity, he was left as the last remainder of the shinobi lifestyle. Approached by 3 goddesses, they offered him a new life, one with constant battle, subjects for him to rule and command, and a throne for him to rule watching over a kingdom he could call his home, and with them at his side. The first one was a blonde-haired woman that possessed a godly beauty that was only compared to her companions. Her features were delicate, and her face was framed by her pale blonde hair. Her body could only be described as voluptuous with enormous, wide hips, and a big perky ass. All that was covered by a tiny robe that couldn't hide her figure. This was Kami, creator of destruction and creation, mistress of angels, and goddess of life. The second one was a black-haired woman, her features as delicate as Kami's, but the shape of her face was more oval, her hair pulled into a ponytail, her red eyes shined with malice and mischievousness. Also like Kami, she had a voluptuous figure though her and ass were slighter smaller, her hips flared more. She was wearing a black robe that had weird red marks over it. This was Yami, goddess of the underworld, and mistress of demons. The last woman also had an extreme beauty about her. Her skin was very pale, almost ashy but still lustrous. Her hair was a dark gray, leaning and covering her left eye giving her a mysterious look, her eyes dulled with insanity and bloodlust. Her chest was petite, compared to the other 2 but still big in normal standards, but her best feature was her wider hips and her round, perky ass. Her body was barely clothed, only having a white tank top and short shorts. This was Shinigami, or Shini, goddess of death, and mistress of fallen angels. He didn't have anything to lose if he agreed. His wives, friends, and their children were gone. He had already spent years watching over Yuzu and keeping peace. There weren't really any fights, and that was the one thing he missed. Fighting. No matter how much he had tried to deny it, he was a warmonger, he lived to fight. He loved to fight. He wasn't a warhawk like Danzo, but he just disliked being peaceful all the time. So he accepted. He had unknowingly opened a new life for himself. The 3 goddesses had turned him into a real god, not just one bound by the chains of one dimension, as he learned there were multiple, but able to roam and conquer if he so decided to. Of course, there were those that disagreed with this, but due to the overwhelming support from other gods and goddesses, he prevailed. Imagine his shock when he found out he had an entire fan club in both heaven and hell. Heaven for his heroic deeds surpassing all odds and making a name for himself, and hell for killing the arrogant and sending them down there for their enjoyment. Turns out, though unsurprising to Naruto, all his former friends and such were sent straight to hell to be judged for their crimes against him. It was amusing when he found out, to say the least, and even more funny when he heard what happened to his old teammate, the Uchiha, and all his former friends. The little shit, along with just about the rest of Konoha, even after their deaths by someone they believed as inferior to them, still believed themselves to be kings and queens. Even in hell, surrounded by thousands of demons, orcs, and the bringer of death herself, the Shinigami, claiming how they were justified, nothing that they did was wrong, how they were above any law, insulting just about any and every demon they could, along with many of them making foul statements about some of the female demons there. It didn't go good at all, as they were easily found guilty of their crimes. They were sentenced to an eternity within hell and would work any type of punishment the demons saw fit. Of course, they all verbally raged about this, including one pink-haired banshee. Us? We're saints compared to that monster Naruto Baka. He should be down here. Not us. Uzumaki Namikaze's Naruto has committed no crimes. His only sin is not killing you idiots sooner. That comment sparked the Konoha people with enough rage they began shouting slander about him, how he was nothing more than a monster, a dope and dead last, a freak of nature, a monstrosity. Having enough of their favorite person to watch, I'll elaborate more later on, being insulted, both demons and orcs alike lunged at the humans, tearing them apart limb from limb with little to no mercy. Worst part was in hell, slaves didn't die, their body recovered eventually. After he heard that, the Akatsuki couldn't stop smiling for weeks. And why would he? The people that had made his life so miserable before he had become a god and could fight back, treating him as if he was lower than them or didn't deserve to live. They had finally gotten what they deserved and would feel pain for the rest of their lives every single day. Nothing could be a more fitting punishment. But back on to the fan club business, from how the Uchiha always ran away from his fan club, who literally shouted out, "Have my baby Sasuke-kun." And from seeing how pathetic both Ino and Sakura were with their fangirl mentalities, he thought they were nothing more than a curse. Oh, how wrong he was. Weak-willed, physically lacking fangirls who cared for nothing more than how they looked and went as far to degrade others on how they looked in order to feel better about themselves were easily the worst. Always dreaming about their knight in shining armor coming to save them, never training, saying it wasn't for a real woman. Then you had fangirls that not only took care of their body but trained, instead, focusing on how to be an equal to their crush instead of hopelessly praying and dreaming of him saving her. Then they would kiss like in a fairy tale. He had met many like that, from goddesses to demons. Both had worshipped him on a fanatical level, which scared him, honestly. Apparently, from watching his dimension and watching him grow stronger despite the obstacles that did their best to hold him back, he grew stronger and eventually killed them all, thus earning many to like him. He had learned from Kami that there were all kinds of dimensions featuring him as the child of the prophecy. Though many weren't pleasant. Not pleasant at all. There were those where he had been used by his own parents for their sick and twisted goals before they discarded him like he was trash. Ones where he had a sister who was given karama during the sealing and treated like a princess, whereas he was forgotten and eventually abandoned due to him not having any talent. Ones where he had been manipulated by the Sandame, Jiraiya, and Tsunade to be a dumb, hyperactive idiot who wore orange and shouted about being Hokage while knowing as little jutsu as possible before they betrayed him, killing him in the end with smirks on their faces. His only purpose being to make sure Konoha was the strongest village in shinobi history. When asked what he would do about it, he gave an answer that would make Madara run in fear. They will know pain. He finally understood what Madara, Nagato, and Obito meant. In reality, true peace where everyone was happy without fights or wars was a fool's dream. Something unreachable. There was darkness in everyone, and when brought to the light, it turned the person ugly. In every dimension where he was betrayed, manipulated, or used, he could see darkness coming from everyone around as they avoided him like the plague. When his own sister taunted him for being the reject loser their parents gave up for not being good enough, he snapped. The longer you live, the more you realize reality is just made of pain, suffering, and emptiness. He had brought each world to their knees before wiping them out. Starting with the ones who betrayed him. Everyone felt it, the darkness within him coming to rise. Flashback. The arena was dead silent. No one could comprehend what exactly had just happened. The Namikaze prodigy was dominating her loser of a brother while people in the stands laughed along with Yondaime and his wife. Insulting him, degrading him, proving he was nothing more than a lost cause. Then it happened. The boy clutched his head in pain before he let out a roar of rage, and black chakra roared from within him as his body began to change physically. His midget height of 4 feet 8 inches changed to 5 feet 8 inches, his dirty blonde hair turned a blood red with black tips, his chest more ripped along with the six-pack he now sported. His clothing going from that hideous neon orange to black shinobi pants, his once yellow teeth now turned in sharp pearly whites, and the immense darkness coming from him. But what really shocked both the civilians and shinobi alike was the Mangekyo and Rinnegan he sported in his eyes and the 2 white horns he sported on his head. His skin turned dark black as a star formed on top of his nose but in the middle of his eyes as well. His sister was visibly shaking in fear before she tried to put up a tough front. Ha. And ice genjutsu loser, but it doesn't mean anything. You still won't win and mommy and daddy will always love me more than you. She taunted. The smirk that graced the now redhead's face was unsettling to many. So? I could care less about the Namikes and his whore. They were never there for me when I was little, so I definitely don't expect them to be there for me now. In fact, I expect them to even try to help you should I beat you so badly in front of them. He laughed. You beat me? Ha! Remember the last time you managed to beat me? Mommy kicked you out the whole F. She was cut off by a foot placing itself directly in her stomach, sending her flying into the wall. I remember well. The whore beat me because I beat her favorite child in a duel that was supposed to be completely one-sided. He grinned up at the fuming Minato and Kushina who were glaring daggers at him, hoping he would burn alive. Tell me, Namikes. Is there any Uzumaki left in you, or did that die after that Toad Sannin told you and Minato about that so-called prophecy? Their shocked faces said it all. Surprised? It's funny what a 6-year-old can find out when no one gives a fuck about him and never checks up on him. You never even questioned what would happen to me after Minato told you of the fame it would bring both of you if my beloved sister fulfilled the prophecy. How cute. Naruto sidestepped as his sister slammed an incomplete Rasengan into the ground, an attack that was obviously meant to kill him. Shut up. So what if they realized I was the only good thing they had in the family? You're a loser playing ninja. A outcast. No one likes you. Just fall in a hole and die somewhere. She shouted. Will do, he said before he disappeared, only to appear right in his face and grip her stomach hard, directly where the seal was. But first, I want the 9 tails, he said with a predatory grin. He had never felt so alive after letting his darkness roam free. Of course the Yondaime and his wife along with their entire shinobi force rained down on him with the intent to kill after seeing him pull Kurama from his sister whose name he still didn't bother to know. He dealt with them quite easily, beating them within an inch of their lives and sending the world in a state of panic. After all, if someone could easily beat the Yondaime, his wife, and Konoha's entire shinobi force and not break a sweat, what was stopping him from coming after them? However, not everyone was against what he did. The Fire Daimyo, for instance, demanded answers the instant Minato and Kushina awoke. They had tried to avoid the question as best they could, but the threat of removing all funding the village broke that. They did admit everything, from abandoning Naruto, to ignoring him, treating him like a bug, all because he wasn't a part the prophecy Jiraiya spoke of. The daimyo didn't like that one bit. So you mean to tell me your child because of some damned prophecy? You don't understand. Natsumi could be the savior of the world. She had to be given all our attention and love. So what if that brat didn't have anyone? You can see he's still nothing more than a pest. You ignorant bitch. That so-called pest just beat you all without so much as a sweat. I felt more power come from him than I've ever felt come from that so-called child of the prophecy. How dare you talk about my daughter like that? Fire daimyo or not, you will not degrade my daughter for that creature. That creature, as you call him, has just made Konoha his #1 enemy, and I assure you, should he take vengeance on your miserable lives, he will not be reprimanded. You can't do that. I won't let you. Try me. He sighed, remembering how he had killed the bitch with chakra chains, her shock and hatred fully known to the world. The Yondaime fell shortly after, victim of his oh so precious Hiraishin. Then came the Toad Sage to avenge his student and stop what the Toads had called the God of Chaos. He failed humiliatingly, death by naked women who killed him while he scribbled perversely in his notebook. Fucking loser. With those 3 dead, the rest of Konoha fell easily, as each and every one of them, after seeing their strongest ninja fall easily, charged blindly in rage. It was like for all the other timelines as well. He showed no mercy to those who betrayed him. Though he had to say, coming back from the dead was a new feeling. He absolutely loved the look of shock and fear on their faces when he came back after years and raised them to the ground. Crying, pleading for mercy, he gave none. Afterwards, he became a conqueror of sorts. He traveled to different worlds as a visitor to see what they were like. He found many that were being oppressed by evil beings and people forced into slavery, whether as workers or sex slaves for the more lustful, greedy men. He took on the last name Akatsuki after a meeting with the Shinju Council, who were also fans of his surprisingly, and they were more than happy to see he wasn't abusing his power but instead using it to wipe worlds of corruption. He was appointed with the title, God of Chaos, as he was the most intertwined with his inner demons. Unlike Yami, who only swelled in the darkness, or Kami, who swelled in the light, or even Shini, who had brushed with both sides often, Naruto fully embraced both the dark and light and had bonded them together, which made him incredibly dangerous as his power rivaled only Kami's, though she said with how many people were currently worshipping him, he had bound to pass her any day. Yeah, life was pretty good for Naruto indeed as a god. The redhead grunted as a woman bounced on top of him, moaning loudly as her swayed with her bouncing. The woman in question had a curvy figure with a nice gropable ass, with blue cat's ears, and 2 blue tails with white fur lining it. The straps of her tank top had fallen along with her shirt to her waist as she bounced. This was none other than the Two-Tails Bijou, Nibi. Like many other female demons, Nibi had taken a liking to him because of the power he possessed. It also helped he was incredibly well endowed. Naruto leaned up and began kissing Nibi's neck, wrapping his arms around her waist before thrusting up. Before he could come in her, a knock came on the door. "Whoever it is, go the fuck away." Naruto barked. "Naruto-sama, Yami-sama requests your presence," a soft voice said from the other side. "Fuck," he growled before exploding within the two-tailed demon woman. Naruto to Nibi screamed before she passed out on top of him. The Akatsuki chuckled, removing her and placing her comfortably on the bed. He didn't need to worry about covering her since people knew better than to enter his room unannounced. He opened the door to see a dark-skinned female with black hair, with bangs that covered her right eye, golden eyes that had hints of lust, a revealing red-colored navy robe, with a large hemline on the front that exposed her arms, the lateral parts of her huge and her belly. "Hello, Kira." He smiled. The brunette bowed to show respect, then gave him a smile. "I apologized for the interruption. Yami-sama told me it was urgent. And needed your immediate attention." "I understand," he said with another smile. Naruto and Kira had met during his visit in the underworld when he went to laugh at his former comrades. He had enjoyed that time immensely, especially after their befitting roles. Ino, Tsunade, and Hinata were literal fuckers that got passed around from orc to demon to demon. Ino, from what he heard, caved as soon as the first dick went inside her, unsurprisingly. Hinata and Tsunade had put up resistance, but after being gangbanged for 8 straight times, they inevitably caved in. The two had met while Naruto was mocking the three while they were being fucked, calling them whores and sluts. Kira had joined in, and soon after the two had formed somewhat of a friendship. Eventually they came upon a throne room that only rivaled Naruto's in terms of space and room. Though whereas Naruto's throne room was filled with Uzumaki paintings, decorations, and occasionally the heads of his enemies, this one was completely bland and white. "I do believe this is where we part, Naruto-sama," Kira said. "It is. Do take care of yourself for me," Naruto said as he walked inside. Naruto smiled as he saw his 3 favorite people ever in his life. "Naruto-kun." The redhead was immediately glommed between courtesy of the 3 goddesses. "Mama, I'm happy to see you too," he mumbled. "You must be wondering why you were called here." Upon Naruto's nod, Yami continued, "It's a nuisance we should have just killed long ago. Ao has escaped his confinement, and ran off hoping to find more power in hopes to conquer you and eventually defeat and force us to marry him." The Akatsuki's eye twitched. Ao was an Akatsuki who was outraged with the fact the Shinju Council had chosen Naruto as the Asserting no Kami and not him. He was also somehow related to Tonari, Momoshiki, and Kinshiki, so obviously he had pure hatred for the redhead. He had challenged Naruto in front of everyone for the title and the power he wielded before saying he'd make Yami, Kami, and Shini his wives before taking over everything. It was an incredibly pathetic, and the fight, if you could call it that, was short as Naruto embarrassed the man and basically gave him a handicap. The fight wasn't close, just like no one expected it to be. Ao, humiliated to the point of no return, decided to strike at Naruto, whose back was turned only to get blinded and beaten an inch within his life again. Afterwards he was imprisoned with a bunch of other criminals that rebelled against either Kami, Yami, and Shini. How did he escape? That place is supposed to be locked down tightly. The 3 goddesses shrugged. "All we know is that he and the other inmates formed an escape plan and broke out," Shini said. "And do you know where he's going?" Naruto asked. Upon the 3 avoiding his eyes, he grew annoyed. "Just tell me," he said. "He's heading to the only place you can obtain Bijou-tailed beasts," Kami said, still avoiding her eyes. Naruto's eyes widened in understanding before he snarled. "The Elemental Nations." Naruto had made it clear to everyone that the Elemental Nations was his domain, and his domain only. To go into it meant your life was forfeit. "You want me to go in after him, don't you?" Yami nodded. "You're the only one who knows chakra at such a high level, plus you're the only one who can defeat an entire group of Akatsuki. The others cannot and would simply die," he sighed before nodding. Every day a new dimension of the Elemental Nations was created, some different, some the same, and some incredibly dark. Though Kami had easily made sure nothing got out of hand by sending him to wipe out everyone in it should they get too wild. "Ao will die along with my traitorous clansmen. I assure you of that," Naruto said as he turned and walked out the throne room, his eternal Mangekyo spinning rapidly in his right eye. "You will soon see the full power of the Asserting no Kami Akatsuki Ao. Believe it." Uzumaki Kushina was not the happiest of women, and she hadn't been for a long time. The day she was giving birth to her daughter Naomi, a masked man claiming to be Uchiha Madara threatened to kill both her and her child before ripping the kyubi from her stomach. Her husband Namikaze Minato had fought off the masked man before going into this mad rant about how his daughter would be the greatest weapon Konoha ever had. "You don't get it, Kushina. I never loved you. You were a great fuck, that's all, a means to sire me an heir I could control. Now with you out of the way, I can raise this girl to be my ultimate weapon, and Konoha will be the strongest shinobi village that ever existed." Something inside Kushina became cold and dark that day, and it only grew larger as the village, Konohagakure, village in the Hidden Leaves, demanded her child be killed for having the Kyuubi sealed within her or made into a weapon. Hatake Kakashi and Jiraiya didn't take too kindly to their sensei/student being killed and had attempted to kill Naomi on multiple occasions, though were foiled time and time again either by the Sandaime Hokage, Mitarashi Enko, Inuzuka Tsum, or herself. Mitarashi Enko had been the only one of her 3 students to stand by and support her during her time of need. Being an outcast herself, Enko knew all about being hated and disliked for something out of her control and thus had stuck by her sensei. The same could not be said for her other students, Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai. As she found out from Enko, Kurenai had always been jealous of Kushina for having Minato's attention, while she didn't. Instead, she had decided to get under the Uzumaki's wing and learn things secretly about Minato in hopes of wooing him away. When that didn't work, Kurenai had tried multiple times to poison Kushina. Thankfully, the Kyuubi had made the poisons relatively harmless, thus foiling Kurenai's plans. Upon finding out the Kyuubi was sealed within her daughter, she had attempted to place Kushina in a genjutsu and kill Naomi secretly in honor of the Yondaime, but failed as Kushina got out the genjutsu easily before threatening the Chunin, at the time, with death. Her other student, Yuzuki Yugao, was one she had high hopes for, someone she taught the art of kenjutsu, so to see her betray her was annoying, to put it nicely. Yugao stated she wanted no part with Kushina or her demon spawn, as she called Naomi, wanting no deal with the village outcasts so it wouldn't damage her reputation with any of her higher-up officers. Kushina's response? Kicking her ass, quite literally. The ones who hit her hardest was the betrayal of 3 of her best friends in Uchiha Mikoto and Hyuga Hitomi, and Nara Yoshino, who when Kushina asked for support simply stated that an Uchiha/Hyuga didn't assist such lower-ranking class people such as her. Yoshino simply said he would be too bothersome, and she had more to worry about than her and her little hellspawn. Kushina, being a censor, immediately went to see if they were being affected by any seals to make them switch up. There were none. Her last loyal best friend, one Inuzuka Tsum, who had been the redhead's best friend far longer than either of the others, had stood by Kushina's side till the end, regardless of the fact a few of her clansmen died in the Kyuubi's rampage or not. She claimed the Inuzuka clan would have her back through whatever she needed, and as such they did. The Sandaime, Sarutobi Hiruzen, while angered and saddened at the death of his wife, asked just happened during the birth. She had told him everything, excluding Minato's madman rant, about the man claiming to be Madara, Minato being taken by the Shinigami, how his Sharingan could control the 9 tails. Once he understood, he did not harbor any ill will against her daughter. However, that was only 3 people and a clan that supported her. They were against any entire village that wanted her daughter dead or used as a weapon. As a result, she had grew exceptionally cold towards anyone that showed her child malice. Her kind side had only been seen by her child, Enko, Tsum, or Sarutobi. Growing up, Naomi had been influenced by her mother a lot, often acting like her so much she developed an ice-cold personality, as well. Kushina had made sure her daughter was well trained, teaching her how to wield a sword, jutsu, and even the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains, which were black. When Sarutobi questioned her on this, she gave him a reply that instantly shut him up. When my daughter finally goes to the academy, do you think they'll give her a fair chance like the rest of those brats? No, they'll do any and everything in their power to make sure she fails and gets held back. I won't let that happen. Once Naomi had finally started going to the academy, Kushina was right. The instructors and teachers had done their best to embarrass her, asking questions no Chunin would be able to answer, let alone academy student. When she often asked Naomi about her classmates, she only had one thing to describe them: losers, and she was right. Her classmates were quite frankly losers in all of the sense. Inuzuka Kiba, the son of Tsum, believed he was the shit, and thought he was an alpha of sorts. He had attempted to talk to Naomi multiple times, though was blown off multiple times. Nara Shikamaru, the son of Yoshino, was the definition of a slacker, though she knew all Nara men were incredibly smart. He just didn't do anything right as far as anything. All he did was sleep and stare at clouds. Akamichi Choji was a fat kid who just ate chips all day and got bullied because of his weight, plus he was friends with the Nara boy. Yamanaka Ino and Haruno Sakura, or as Enko and Naomi called them, the Banshee sisters, were nothing more than fangirls who just fought over one boy, never trained or exercised, and spent time stalking said boy or attempting to make themselves look pretty. All 3 thought they would easily be good one-night stands growing up. Uchiha Sasuke, son of Mikoto, the said boy of the girl's affection, was a emo, duck-haired brat who thought the world owed him something. Ever since his sister Itako, female Itachi, murdered the Uchiha clan save him, the village had baited the boy silly, giving him stuff for free, giving him free lessons on jutsu and everything else. He had tried to show up Naomi multiple times only to get beaten quite savagely, earning the hate of his fan club and the people of Konoha even more, not that she cared. Hyuga Hinata, daughter of Hitomi, was easily one of the worst clan heirs Kushina had ever seen. The girl had no confidence, no self-esteem, she flinched at everything and fainted at almost nothing. She had even heard from Anko that Hitomi herself was planning on disowning the girl soon if she didn't start acting like a real Hyuga, as she put it. Aburaim Shino was simply a member of the Aburaim clan, and one who was disliked by the entire class simply for being a loser who plays with bugs. Naomi had excelled despite the civilian council's and instructors' best plots and became Kunoichi of the Year. Not that the title meant much considering it wasn't even a race, seeing how she bested her classmates in literally everything. Hiruzen, seeing how anyone else would take the chance to kill Naomi if she was placed within their team, he gave her dual senseis in Anko and Kushina. This of course caused conflict as the Shinobi Council and Civilian Council demanded Sasuke get 2 senseis or they would have a serious problem. Sarutobi's response was to pull up the long list of crimes they had committed under his and Minato's rule. That of Chaos had sent them running out of his office in a flash. Though all of that anger and malice could not describe how Kushina was currently feeling right now. They had been given a C-ranked mission to guard a bridge builder named Tazuna and protect him from a grimy businessman named Gato who was oppressing Wave Country. The mission had been turned to an A-ranked as they had been attacked by the Demon Brothers, who they disposed of easily. However, their real problem came as a group of 10 men surrounded them, all grinning evilly. They however didn't come for the bridge builder but instead for Naomi, or more precisely the Kyuubi's chakra, in order to beat and kill him, whoever he was. The 3 had put up a good fight, but considering each man the chakra amount of a 2-tailed tailed beast, they didn't stand a chance. And thus there as we are now, their client Tazuna dead, having his stomach cut wide open. A look of horror on his face, Naomi, Anko, and her on the ground glaring at the men as they surrounded them. Oh, and it was raining. Boss, we should have some fun with them before we take the Kyuubi's chakra. It's been a while since we last have seen any females. One of them said, earning approval from the others. Their bodies are appealing, especially the older redheads. Fine, we'll make 'em scream our names first. Might even keep them around as pets afterwards. The leader, a man with shaggy black hair and a tannish brown skin color, said, idiots. A new arrival said, Anko, Kushina, and Naomi's eyes all widened as a man standing at 6 feet 7 inches came into the clearing. An annoyed look plastered on his scarred face. His skin was snow white. He also wore a dark gray kimono with markings around it. He had spiky, dirty white hair along with a pair of horn-like protrusions extending from either side of his forehead along with pupilless white eyes. Eo-sama, I thought you would be waiting for us to arrive back at that human's place. A red-haired man said. That was the plan, however, I came due to the fact something rubs me the wrong way here and I don't like it at all. The man said. Do you have a problem with that? Of course not. So that's the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Doesn't look like much. He insulted, causing Naomi to growl. Boss, can we have the 2 women? They look so defying, I just want to break 'em. A brown-haired asked. Ao waved his hand. You can do whatever you want with them. I only care for the 9 tails chakra. What the hell do you even want with the Kyuubi anyway? Anko shouted. Since I see no harm in telling you, since you aren't going to be telling anyone anyway, I was once a feared general of the Shinju Council, worshipped by many and feared by all. He took a moment to emphasize the point by spreading his arms, to which all 3 girls rolled their eyes. Then his face turned into a scowl, until that damned Uzumaki Naruto came around, favored by those whores they called goddesses. They wanted to bestow upon him the power only an elite such as myself had the right to claim. The Ashirado no Kami, a title known to everyone that instantly inspired fear into the hearts of everyone, commanding beasts, only known to the one who wields the title. Kushina, Naomi, and Anko's eyes widened. Uzumaki? That brat walked in and beat me while I was weak. Even then he was only able to escape thanks to those bitches intervening and saving his miserable life. They locked me away so there would be no one to challenge him by now. By going to the place he gained such power, I will reign supreme and take my rightful place as ruler of the gods. He finished, earning roars of approval from his henchmen. In the trees, a figure in the trees nearby watched as the IDM-Bessie delusional man ranted about his so-called claim to glory being stripped from him. His right eye, being the only visible one, had 3 tomo in it that were spinning slowly. God, he's such a sore loser, and the tales he sprout are nothing more but words from a buffoon. The figure said. His eye went to the 3 kunoichi. HN. They look like bitches. Depending on how they act will decide whether I entertain myself in this dimension or simply revive Tazuna, wipe their minds of me, and head back home. And now Kyuubi, your chakra is mine. Ao shouted from below. TCH, can't never wait, can you? With that, the figure jumped down from his hiding spot. You know, that'd be a good story if half of it was true and not out the mouth an egotistical, power-hungry moron like yourself. Everyone looked at the new arrival as he stood up, standing at a height of 6 feet 3 inches. He wore a black cloak that was being blown by the heavy wind, dark spiky red hair that completely covered the left side of his face. Like Ao, he had 2 horns sprouting from either side of his forehead, though were surrounded by the spiky hair, giving him a pharaoh look. Dark fingerless gloves, a gray, long-sleeved, collared shirt, black pants, black shinobi boots, and a black belt which held a brown shuriken holster. His right eye still having the 3 tomo, though they weren't spinning yet. Little did they know, the figure was also examining them, starting with the 3 females. Uzumaki Kushina was wearing a torn red shirt that showed her impressive cleavage that clearly couldn't be held into a bra, brown fingerless gloves, gray shinobi pants that had their own slash marks, and shinobi sandals, her left arm appearing to be holding a wounded spot in her stomach. Her headband did nothing to stop her hair from covering her face due to the rain. Mitarashi Anko was only wearing her fishnet shirt that revealed the areolas of her round huge since her trench coat had been cut to bits, gray pants with sandals, her spiky purple hair usually in a ponytail, but from the rain and fighting, it was down. Her Konoha headband acting as a belt. She was also heavily drenched from the rain. And finally, Uzumaki Naomi. The girl was wearing the remaining shreds of a black hoodie, a white tank top underneath that had been thoroughly drenched by the rain showing her easily, her headband wrapped around her neck, black pants with orange flames on the side, from what it looked, drenched bandage wrappings on her arms, and shinobi sandals. Her red hair, like her mother's, had been drenched by the rain and was currently covering half her face. His eyes then turned to the males. They all ranged from 5 feet 9 inches to 5 feet 10 inches with different colored hairstyles. Naruto! Ao growled in anger. How did you catch up with us? The redhead chuckled. You didn't exactly believe that breaking out of prison, taking inmates with you, and crossing into a domain that does not belong to you wouldn't go unnoticed, did you? Ao snorted before he smirked. You won't have such an easy time defeating me as you did before after I obtained the 9 tails chakra. You 10, drop the axe and handle him. He roared. Yes, Ao-sama. They shouted before dropping their henges. The fake appearances dropped to show 10 new men standing there, all of them having new features. Fallen gods. Naruto snarled. Fallen gods were simply gods who had been cast out of heaven and unaccepted by hell due to how sick they were. Therefore, as punishment, they were stripped of their powers and sent to a prison of sorts that had the power and force to restrain them. Until now, that is. Long time no see, Naruto. A gray-haired man stepped forward, his face scarred beyond even unearthly repair. How could anyone forget seeing a face like yours, Ryo? He taunted, causing the man to growl. A face you caused me. He snapped. Naruto simply shrugged. Not my fault you thought I was a pushover and found out the hard way. Enough talking. Let's just kill him already. A orange-haired man shouted. Ryo shrugged before smirking. Fine by me. I would say it was nice knowing you, Naruto, but that would be telling a lie. Naruto simply undid his cloak, letting it flow with the wind. His 3-tomo Sharingan forming into its eternal Mangekyo stage as he took a taijutsu stance. Who will be the first to fall before a god? He asked the men as they charged. Dodging reckless punch after punch, he retaliated with an uppercut, sending one flying and dodging a kick aimed at his back. He jumped back, avoiding a fireball that hit the ground, sending debris everywhere before seeing 4 more approaching. Suetun, Suijin Hiki. Flashing through hand seals, he raised a wall of water that blocked all 4 but sending steam everywhere that blinded his Sharingan. Can't use that special eye now, can you? He heard Ryo call out. I didn't need it to beat you losers before and I don't need it now. Naruto mocked, earning growls from all around him. Just die already. A voice yelled from behind. He turned around and caught a fist aiming for his face before gripping the hand tightly, breaking the bones within it. H. The man gave a pain-filled scream that froze everyone in the vicinity before he gave a disgusting squelch from his throat, and a thud was heard. A pulse of chakra was felt through their bodies as the steam cleared, showing a completely new Naruto. This Naruto wore a ANBU mask of sorts, though it was completely black with only red markings for slits around the eye holes, his eyes showing the EMS, and the once long-sleeved shirt he wore gone. Showtime, he said as he took off at a blinding speed towards his first victim, who paled. Ao also paled considerably, remembering just how dangerous Naruto was when that mask came out. He was like a bloodthirsty animal that stopped at nothing to acquire what he wanted, and if you just happened to be in his way, you lost your life. He was referred to as Yami Naruto. Forget it, I'll just kill the women and take the 9 tails chakra when I'm conveniently hidden away from him, he said, clear fear in his voice. Oh, you are? A voice said behind him. The Akatsuki's eyes widened as he turned around, only to get hit in the face, sending him into some trees and nearby into a forest. Naruto turned to 4 of his clones and nodded before he took off after Ao. Oh, what are you guys doing? Anko said, wincing as she was lifted up bridal style. Taking you somewhere safe. Where else? A clone answered. We don't need your help, we're capable of helping ourselves. Kushina snapped as she ripped herself from the clone assisting her, trying to walk, only to grunt in pain and almost fall over before the same clone she brushed off to hold her up. In the current situation you're in, you can't even walk, let alone fight. Why are you helping us? You could just kill us and move on with something else. Especially if you're a god like he claimed. I could, but you 3 interest me. Just what exactly do you mean by that? Naomi asked before wincing as she tried to sit up. Another clone that was carrying Tazuna's corpse answered. I can sense negative emotions and all 3 of you possess many. Though what they're directed at, and why, I don't know. Kushina scowled. Just tell us what you want already. The clone rolled his eyes. You can cut the tough act, Kushina-san. It has no effect on me whatsoever, so honestly just act normal. I am acting normal. She lied. Whatever you say. Yami Naruto glanced around at the dead fallen gods he had picked apart, their bodies torn between broken bones, slit throats, or mental breakdown by his Sharingan. All but one was accounted for. Clang. Summoning a katana in his hand and raising his behind him defensively, he had blocked a backstab meant to kill him by none other than Ryo. So we meet again, freak. Ryo taunted, only to get no reply. Don't want to talk? Fine, you'll just die in silence. The scarred man then charged, swiping madly at Yami Naruto, madly in a stray of unbalanced, sloppy, arrogant strikes. Being the skilled duelist he was, Yami Naruto simply whacked Ryo across the face with his hilt before thrusting his blade into the shorter male's thigh, causing him to scream in pain. "You little shit! I'll make you beg me for mercy after that." Slashing madly, it was clear to anyone that Ryo didn't know how to wield a sword or simply was just too angered to use it properly. Yami Naruto simply dodged the strikes, angering the fallen god even more, who continued to slash wildly. Making eye contact with Ryo, his Sharingan spun, captivating Ryo, whose eyes went dull, and then he fell back. Naruto's Tsukuyami. Ryo awoke to see his comrades well and alive, cheering him on. What happened?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. "You did it! You killed that pathetic bastard!" one of them shouted. A grin came to Ryo's scarred face. "Of course I did. And now I will assume rule over the world and everything will be mine," he shouted, expecting cheers. He got none. When he turned to look at them, he gasped in horror. His former alive fallen gods were now dead, their eyes plucked out, organs spilled out hanging them, and their mouths carved into creepy demonic smiles. "What the fuck?" Ryo shouted, falling on his ass, attempting to turn and run away, only to come face first with his deceased son. "Daddy?" the boy said, moving towards the man. "No! No! Get back! Daddy, don't you remember me?" The boy's face began more disfigured, one side beginning to melt while the other turned scarred as he began to start crying in pain, holding his chest. "You caused this." The child blamed Ryo, who was too horrified to do anything. The boy's body then turned to flames as he screamed, which would be somewhat adorable had his not be melting. He charged his former father, who was still frozen on the spot, thus catching him on fire as well. Only when he began to burn did he finally react. "Get off me! No, I can't die yet, please stop." And oh, the genjutsu ended with Yami Naruto looking down at the remains of Ryo. His body had been burnt badly beyond recognition, his eyes bleeding profusely, and ooze coming out of mouth, nose, and ears. "That was easier than I thought," he said before disappearing back into his original body. Devastation. That was the only real word to describe the battlefield. Torn ground, chunks on earth everywhere, destroyed trees, burning bushes, gaping holes in the ground. In the middle stood two men, one being Ao, though it wouldn't be your fault if you didn't recognize him. His kimono had been ripped, one of his pupilless eyes being swollen shut, the other one having a vein leading down indicating he had the Byakugan. His horns were broken, being lost somewhere in the woods, and multiple cut marks all over his body. The second was Naruto, him being more identifiable. His shirt had been destroyed, forcing him to go shirtless, his left horn broken in half, blood dripping from his right eye that was swollen shut, his left arm black and scarred from a beating from the trees and Juken strikes, and his left eye that once held a 9-tomo Rinna Sharingan had returned to its basic Rinnegan form. "It's over, Uzumaki. I've won, you've lost. And once I rip the power of the 10 tails from your body, I'll take over this timeline and everything else. I'll be the strongest there ever was." Ao shouted to the sky. "Even at my weakest, you still can't kill me." "How disappointing," Naruto mumbled. "What did you say?" Ao vehemently snapped. "I'm currently not at my strongest at all, far from it actually. When the steam gave me a chance to cover myself, I created another body, you know him as Yami Naruto. My darker half. I gave him more than a generous amount of chakra to try out a new version of Tsukuyami I had in mind for Ryo. This was how you saw him, and I at the same time, instead of one of us having control over just one body." Ao's smirk dropped and an infuriated look took place. He had been played. He wasn't even treated as an equal? He had looked down upon him, General Ao once again? No, he would kill this version of Naruto, then kill the Yami version. Yes. Then he would take those 3 females and any other female he desired for himself. The universe would fear him and him only. Ao, the conqueror. He almost missed a dark malevolent chakra shoot into the back of Naruto, who kneeled over in slight pain. Seeing his face, he smirked before rushing forward with chakra pushed into his feet, sending all the available chakra he had into his remaining hand for a killing Juken strike. He would rule all, Ao the conqueror, Ao the brave. He would be feared and respected by A. His throat was caught as he was brought face to face to Naruto, who had stood up. The chakra in both his feet and hand quite literally had disappeared. The evil chakra flowing off of Naruto scared the former Akatsuki general immensely, but he wouldn't let this monster know that. Naruto opened his left eye as the wind kicked up, revealing the familiar 4-ringed, 9-tomoed purple Rinna Sharingan eye. His skin turning black as a star formed above his nose. Pathetic. I wasn't even paying attention, and you still couldn't catch me off guard. And you want people to call you a god? Naruto taunted as he threw Ao into the ground, a crater immediately forming due to the force and size of the heavier man. Witness the true power of a god and how he wipes out worms like you who dare defy him. Chibaku Tensei. A black sphere formed between Naruto's hands before he threw it into the sky. The sphere began attracting pieces of the earth, trees, and even Ao, and Naruto was pulled into the general direction of the black ball. The taller of the two began scrambling for other pieces of earth in an attempt to reach the ground once again before being pulled back by his hair by Naruto, who threw him up even higher before descending to the ground himself. Once the ball had been entirely formed and Ao had been trapped inside, Naruto began his speech. Congratulations, General Ao, for your services against the universe and myself. You'll be given a merciful death for one of such importance as yourself. Please do remember when you die, this was a special occasion just for you. Enko, Kushina, Naomi, and a revived Tazuna had been patching their wounds with the supplies given to them by the clones and a couple wolves who had an odd sense of loyalty to Naruto. They didn't question it seeing how they had saved their lives, were wearing completely different clothes. Enko had been bandaged around her midsection though still wearing her fishnet shirt and fishnet stockings. Did I get that right? She also wore a black shirt with the words bad bitch on it and white with a skirt that had kunai pouches which she had also been resupplied by the clones. Her hair was back in its ponytail form. Kushina was wearing a fishnet shirt, orange shirt, black shinobi pants with 4 kunai pouches, a custom-made katana with a diamond-studded hilt with its own sheath on her thigh. Her hair had been dried out and given back its shine. Naomi had this time decided to bandage her chest before putting on a black shirt that exposed her midriff. She rebandaged her arms, along with fingerless gloves and black shinobi pants. A brown belt that had 2 kunai pouches and across her back was a sword sheath where she had a tanto secured. She had turned her into 2 pigtailed with 2 bangs in the front hanging down. While they were changing, the 3 women had made sure on more than one occasion to make sure the clones weren't looking, which they found amusing. Tazuna had simply preferred to just be bandaged and given new building clothes. When he had been revived, naturally he freaked out, but after a slap by Enko and a brief explanation he was for the most part calm, but you could still tell he couldn't get over the fact he actually died and was then brought back to life. What the hell is that? Enko shouted, drawing everyone else's attention. The other 3 noticeably got worried as well, and it wasn't like they were unjustified. About a large distance from them was a giant ball made of literal earth, and then there was a meteor coming from the sky right on top of it, as if it was attempting to crush it. Boss is just trying to make sure Ao stays dead, though he might be going overboard. One of the clones answered. Well, how do we stop it? Kushina asked. You can't. With the size and force they have, attempting to stop it would be suicide at its very finest. Where's Naruto then? Shouldn't he be over here with us? Naomi asked. Who do you think made it? The second clone responded, feeling a pull. But if he's over there, wouldn't he die? Enko all but screamed. She might not have known the guy, but he was more than okay after all he had done for them so far. The 3 clone just stared at her like she was dumb. What part of universal godlike being with powers you have no idea about do you not understand? Boom! The meteor and ball of rock had finally made contact with the earth in an explosion that shook the ground and forest, sending powerful gusts of wind to clash against the leaves and bushes around them, leaving an eerily chill. Kushina went to question the clones only to see smoke. Where'd they go? Naomi asked, dispelled. When the owner of said clones goes unconscious, they disappear, Enko said before seeing the wolves whine and head off in the direction of the blast. Well then, what are we waiting for? Let's follow them. The younger of the three said, then ran after the wolves. That's the first time I've seen her run after a boy like that. Kushina mumbled. Enko giggled before rubbing her sensei's shoulder. Just be thankful it's someone responsible and not someone back in that shithole village. With that, she took off after them. Kushina shrugged. She couldn't argue with that logic. She turned to Tazuna, who had been knocked out by the wind, and rolled her eyes. Civilians were so fragile. She picked him up, then chased after the group. Wow, if it looked horrible before, it was beyond fuck now. The wasteland, yes, wasteland was destroyed. Grass, dirt, rock, broken tree, you name it was here. Where the hell could he be in all this mess? Enko said as she moved a couple rocks. How about starting where the giant crater is? Naomi pointed out. Enko blinked. There was like a huge crater just opposite of where she was. Oh yeah. The 3 females approached the crater to see Naruto wiping off dirt and grime of his face and body. He looked up at them and gave a toothy grin. Oh hey there, ladies. I'm incredibly grateful that you came back for me, he said. They rolled their eyes watching as he climbed out the crater, but gasped when they saw his current physical condition. How are you even standing? Enko shouted. I'm awesome like that, duh. He stuck his tongue out at the purple-haired woman. So where's that freak with the world domination plan? She asked, trying not to stare at his chest and failing miserably. She wasn't the only having that same problem. Kushina and Naomi, for all their willpower, couldn't look away. Dead. I just don't know what I want to do now, Naruto mumbled as he sat down. What do you mean? I mean, I don't know if I want to go back home and chill or stay here and piss people off. Don't you have to report back or something? Naomi asked curiously. The Akatsuki waved her off. Nah, you'd have to be an idiot to think Ao could actually hurt me, let alone kill me. Well, how strong are you really if you're able to do something like that and still live? Naruto walked ahead, signaling them to follow him. They did. He then summoned a shadow clone. Make sure that forest is returned to its original state. Leave nothing untouched. It nodded and sped off. How exactly is he supposed to cover up that giant mess? And answer my earlier question. Enko barked before squeaking as Naruto picked her up and carried her over his shoulder. I'll explain that, just calm down, he said, walking over to a stream. I'll calm down when you put me back on my feet. The redhead simply sat down with Enko in his lap, glaring at him. I was once like you, Naomi, except I was a boy. Anyways, I was born a Jinchuriki. My mother and father died upon my birth, saving their pathetic village and father sealing Kurama within me. What? Kushina whispered, shocked and somewhat dumbfounded that this man before them was once a Jinchuriki. Her fellow kunoichi weren't any better. My Jinchuriki status revealed to the village by a foolish old Kage who believed his honest and kind citizens and shinobi would understand and could tell the difference between a monster and a child. Oh, how wrong he was. In the hour of my status being revealed, multiple demands of me being killed as retribution for the monster's actions or simply because I withheld Kurama himself. I was beaten, starved, and mocked every day for 12 years straight with very little people actually caring about me, though they of course had their own agendas about me as well. My teaching was sabotaged. I was mocked for not being able to do something so easy by the other students and adults alike. I was told I'd never amount to anything and I'd always be a loser no one cared for. He chuckled. Naomi winced. That sounded a lot of how the people back in Konoha had said in their attempt to break her. Of course it hadn't worked, seeing how she had more confidence about herself, and she had been told daily by either her mother, Enko, or somehow proud they were of her, but Naruto sounded like he didn't really have anyone at all. I had failed the exams 3 times, only graduating because I somehow managed to learn a forbidden jutsu and stop a traitorous chunin who also revealed my status to me. I was placed on a team with an annoying loud fangirl who at the time I had a crush on, an emo loser who thought he was Kami's gift from heaven, and a one-eyed pervert who gave more fucks about his porn than he did about actually training us. Enko and Kushina glanced at each other. That sounded an awful like their eyes widened. Kakashi. Me. I was the worst. No types of training, only one jutsu that I spammed repeatedly only because it was the only thing I knew and I had the chakra to do so. I was loud, obnoxious, annoying, dumb, uncoordinated, and an all-around mess. No one wanted to be around me, and for a while, I was hurt over it. I wanted to be someone who everyone respected and loved, to be known as Naruto, not Kyuubi, the 9-tailed fox in human form, or a blonde idiot who was playing ninja. His Mangekyo unconsciously formed in his right eye, spinning slowly as he gritted his teeth. The thing is, no one wanted to help me get better. Better to have the brat clueless and useless until we need him, but not strong enough as to where he can fight back against us, they said. My first C-ranked mission, I was completely overwhelmed. I had no idea what to do, so naturally I was beaten badly. Did anyone care little Naruto? No. They only cared about that loser because he was the rookie of the year. Bah. He only got the fucking title because he was spoiled silly. The 3 winced as they felt his chakra spike violently in waves that easily dwarfed the malice Kyuubi had made when it had attacked the village. It was just so hard to breathe, so suffocating, so dominating. By some miracle I had inspired the people of the town we were in to fight back against this fat and greedy businessman. It was also when I first heard the term precious people, people who you cared for, those who you'd put your life on the line for time and time again. I understood that, but I also understood I had no one even close to that. No one cared for me, so in turn, I didn't care for them. Naruto recounted the many alternate dimensions of his world he traveled through and experienced. The heartache, the anger, the rage, the sorrow, and finally acceptance. He had been conflicted for some time on how he actually saw his parents, Kushina and Minato. He had seen too much and done too much to view them as Tusan and Ka-san. There had been dimensions where they had lived only to attempt to turn him into a weapon, where they saw him as Kurama and thus abandoned him, and even times where they had chosen a second child over him and had simply forgotten about his existence. Other dimensions had them living and being real parents who cared, trained him, loved him, and always him before themselves. He had thus came to the conclusion that depending on the dimension he was in, he would decide if they were friend or foe and just what role they would have. So, Enko interrupted his mental thinking, if you had no one to call precious, what did you do then? He smirked at her, causing the purple-haired jonin to blush slightly. Heeding my advice, the villagers and townsfolk did fight back against the oppressor and after winning named a bridge after me. I was hailed as a hero, someone who gave them hope and courage. I was ecstatic that at least a few people had treated me like an actual human being. However, my happiness didn't last long. My harpy of a teammate attempted to make the people see her dear crush was the hero and a blonde dunce like me could never do anything right. It didn't help that said crush had threatened to take my life if I ever took his so-called glory away from him while in front of said people. He said, still daydreaming of things he occurred through different dimensions. I'd say the biggest blow came from my supposed sensei who scolded and reprimanded me because I somehow got in Sasuke's way and made a mess of things. Those 3 things altogether had utterly broken me, mentally. Even though I had done nothing wrong, I was being blamed for a egotistical bitch's inability to care for others. The 3 females were listening intently, feeling rage at such a horrible thing happening to someone like Naruto. I had lashed out, verbally at them. I let all my frustrations at not only them but their shitty little village as a whole go, with a special fuck you to each of them before running. I didn't know where I was going to run, but I just knew I had to go somewhere. He recalled yet another memory of how stunned and shocked Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura were of the dope verbally ripping into them. It was there in the woods that I discovered I had something they didn't. And what was that? Kushina asked, cut in between crying or killing whoever had made her Naruto go through such torment. Wait, her? The dojutsu of the Sage of 6 Paths and what was rumored to be a myth, the Rinnegan, Samsara Eye. It is said that in times of a disorder, one who wields the Rinnegan is sent down from the heavens to become either a god of creation who will calm the world or a god of destruction who will reduce everything to nothingness. he answered before activating his Rinnegan, showing them exactly what it looked like without the tomo. If you're a former student of Kakashi, why haven't we heard of you before? Enko asked, mesmerized by the rings of the purple eye. I'll just show you. Telling it all out would take days, he muttered. Before they could ask what he meant, he tapped their foreheads, forcing them into unconsciousness. Kuchios no Jutsu. Slamming his head on the ground, he summoned a giant wolf that easily was larger than Gamabunta. Been a while, hasn't it, Ko? Naruto asked the giant wolf. Shin gave a grin, showing his sharp teeth that were sharp to the bone. Too long, my friend. Far too long. How are you? His voice boomed with power and authority which would intimidate all those who couldn't withstand it. The Akatsuki smiled back, admiring his century-long companion. Shin's fur was black and spiky, his eyes golden, and his ears pointy. He had eventually absorbed Shin, who was at one point the Jubi, and had become his successor. He had then made Shin into his personal summon, had grown on him much like Kurama had. The wolf eagerly accepted, and the two had a strong relationship ever since. I've decided to roam yet another dimension of my homeland. Whether it is as a conqueror or peacemaker has yet to be seen, he answered as he loaded the women and Tazuna onto Shin before hopping on himself. Shin snorted. Of all the dimensions and different worlds we've been to, powers we've seen, women we've seen, why do you continue to come to this wretched land? Things never end well when you do. The people of the world all fear you at some point. Naruto hummed as Shin ran through the clearing, his booming feet easily causing a ruckus and would likely scare anyone who heard it to death. Other than sentimental value? I absolutely adore watching as all the weaklings who believed I was weak, gullible, and a pushover scatter away like insects when I return to destroy their precious lives, he said, sensing conflict up ahead. There's a struggle up ahead. It smells like that woman Tsunami and her child Inari, the family of the bridge builder. I'll give them a warm welcome. A very warm welcome indeed, Naruto said as he disappeared in a flocks of crows. Shin rolled his eyes. Even after years of godhood, fighting, and fucking every desirable woman imaginable, Naruto was still the same. Not that he would have it any other way, of course. Tsunami screamed as the thug held her down, ripping her clothes off. It had just been as normal as the day could be. She was cooking dinner, worried for her father's safety as he had went out to request help from Konoha. He had been gone for more than a few hours, so it was only natural. Then 3 armed thugs working for Gato had broken into the house, grabbing her and her son and forcing them outside the house. Apparently Gato had caught wind of her father going to Konoha for assistance, and had sent a group of men to deal with him. However, in the event he did live, she and Inari would be used as bargaining chips for inspiration as to not finish building the bridge. Though the thugs had other plans which involved forcing themselves onto her and in front of her child no less. She had already been raped once, she didn't want it to happen again. Someone please help me, she screamed, and was rewarded with a smack to the face by the thug. A nasty-looking man in his mid-40s. Shut up, bitch, you should be grateful we're doing this for you. Don't worry, after we're done giving you more kids, you won't ever feel lonely again. We'll pass you around to everyone. He laughed as he dropped his pants and underwear, showing his member. Kaa-san, no! Inari yelled with tears in his eyes. Shut up, you stupid brat. The second thug barked as he punched Inari in the face, giving the boy a black eye and almost lose consciousness. No one's coming to save you, bitch. Just shut up and take our cocks. The third grinned as he began moving towards the held-down woman. You sure about that? All 5 people looked up to see a shirtless redhead with multiple wounds on his body. In their minds, the fact he was still moving was nothing short of a miracle. Get lost before we finish you off, buddy. This doesn't have anything to do with you. The first thug snapped, angry he had been denied the chance of fucking the woman. Naruto grinned as he began walking towards them, cracking his knuckles. 2 of the thugs pulled out shanks as they walked on the redhead. Told you to get lost, now you gotta die. The thugs lunged at Naruto only to find him gone. Where'd he go? Irk. The 2 turned around to see their third partner holding his throat, pulling out a kunai that had been lodged in it before he fell to the ground dead. Boo. The 2 jumped and turned around only for their vision to go dark. Tsunami and Inari watched as Naruto walked towards them and kneeled. You two alright? They nodded dumbly, still not able to comprehend what had just happened. Shin came out of the clearing as 3 irate Kunoichi and 1 dizzy Tazuna got off. Tsunami and Inari immediately running to hug Tazuna and Anko, Naomi, and Kushina standing in front of Naruto with their arms crossed. Shin simply watched the exchange amused. Oh, hi there, Naruto said as he took a precautionary step back. God or not, upset women were annoying to deal with. We are going to talk about this, and we're going to do this privately, Kushina said, growling. Yeah, gotcha. He waved them off and raised an eyebrow when they all raised their ki directly at him. Now, Anko said. Shin, watch them for me, will ya? The wolf nodded as he shrunk to a more respectable size and walked over to the family. Naruto, however, didn't notice as he was being dragged into the forest. One thing was more than likely for sure. Akatsuki Naruto was back in the elemental nations. Nothing was going to be the same. Naruto sighed as he sat up against a tree, his blue eyes watching his kunoichi as they fought against his clones, displaying good taijutsu and ninjutsu skills but not great. Anko flipped over a clone and launched snakes at him, while his back was turned only for the clone to slash the snakes into smoke with a kunai and charge at her. The clone clashed kunai with Anko before kicking her in the stomach before flipping her over his head. The clone then slammed his foot into Anko's chest, making her cough up blood before kicking her aside. Naruto's eyes then traveled to Naomi, who was getting her ass beat quite literally. He winced as she was thrown into a tree. He was positive he heard something break. His eyes then finally landed on the mother of said girl, Kushina, who was in a sword duel against High Final Clone and was actually faring well. Kushina blocked an aggressive thrust by Rh Clone and retaliated with a slash, forcing it to block. Returning with a growl, the clone unleashed powerful slashes at the red-headed woman, who was unable to keep up, resulting in her getting slashed across the body, giving her multiple wounds. The clone then flipped over Kushina, who only kept up with him due to the clone going 40% and Kushina's own battle instincts. The clone kicked Kushina in the face, sending her flying, only to reappear next to her, grab her leg, and slam her into the ground brutally. "That's enough, we're done for the day," Naruto said, his voice automatically roaring over the empty forest. The clones nodded before healing the three women, then dispelling. The three kunoichi then stood before the Akatsuki with their heads bowed as a sign of respect. Originally he had thought when the three women had approached him angry that they were horrified they had been saved by a guy who was quite literally a god in every sense, and would demand he leave them alone forever. How wrong he was. Flashback. "Wait, so the reason you're mad is because I didn't tell you I was basically a primordial being earlier on?" Naruto asked. "Of course I am," Kushina yelled, thinking that alone obviously made sense. It didn't. "And why exactly is that, Kushina? Do you know how long I've been waiting for something like this to happen? Ever since I taught Naomi how to read, we would always read the Uzumaki history of how the Akatsuki were the origin of our clan. Not just our clan, but had adopted the Senju and Uzumaki as well. I had always prayed to Kami that if one was ever returned to the world, I would serve them without question as long as they helped you destroy Konoha and ruin everyone who tried to kill your daughter." Naruto finished. The redhead nodded with her head down, tears threatening to escape her eyes. A hand on her shoulder brought her out of her self-misery as Naruto looked her in her eyes. "Very well, Uzumaki Kushina, I will grant you your request of destroying and ruining Konoha. All I ask is your undying loyalty to me and my plans for this world." His answer was Kushina slamming into him with a hug as she freely cried, "Yes. Thank you? Thank you?" His eyes traveled to the other two women. "And what of you two? Do you have the same desire to watch that village burn, or is it something more?" Anko stepped up first, holding her arm as bit her lip shyly. "I want to watch Konoha burn from the inside. I want to be by Kushina-sensei and Naomi's side, but most importantly I don't want to be forgotten. I don't want to be a distant memory that just shows up when someone needs something done." Naomi stepped forward afterwards, her eyes showing hatred and fury. "I want that stupid village and everyone in it to die. I've heard about what they say behind our backs, the things they do if they got the chance. I hate it. They call us demons and whores, yet they go around selling their bodies to the first one with a few ryo to spend. I just want to live with people who don't hate me and those I love, that's all." To say everyone was shocked was an understatement. Even Naruto, who had seen it all, was shocked as the rage she had displayed in her voice before he grinned. "That shitty village is gonna regret messing with you when I'm done." Flashback end. Since then the three had gotten closer to him, and he had begun training them because, as he said, that village was going to pay. He just didn't like Konoha at all, honestly. It was filled and ruled by arrogant bigots who thought they were above everything in existence and beyond. It was truly amusing and hard not to kill them every time he got bored just to see their scared and terrified faces. He had shown the three the pocket dimensions his Rinne Sharingan gave him access to. Basically the ones Kaguya took Team 7 in their fight with a few new ones. The only world he hadn't shown them was the snow world, where his fortress of thousands of Zetsu guarding it, and it was honestly more of a training ground and war zone to keep his skills sharp. "Naruto-kun, are we improving?" Naomi asked before blushing as his blue eyes met hers. "Slowly but yes, we still need to work on your taijutsu and chakra control. Anko needs more jutsu and bigger chakra reserves. Kushina simply needs to get a bit stronger," he said. "I still can't believe you can use the Shodame's Mokutan and the Uzumaki clan's chakra chains. That's so cool," Anko squealed. "Can you teach us about the Rinnegan and Sharingan's powers? I know those fuckers on the councils are gonna do their best to have that damn Uchiha unlock the Mangekyo in some feeble attempt to control my daughter and to some extent, me." Kushina asked, knowing full well of what the council planned to do. After Itako failed to not only break into the Uzumaki compound but also using her Mangekyo on Kushina and Naomi, she was threatened by Hiruzen should she attempt to attack the Uzumaki clan head again. He wouldn't be responsible for what happened to her. Sure, the Uchiha didn't like that threat, and it only fueled their hatred for him and the village. It made it easier to stomp out their wretched clan even more. It was honestly their last resort, as Kushina only took orders from the Sandame, who came to deliver said orders personally, seeing how none of his ANBU could be trusted. Naruto shrugged. "Sure. Like I said before, the Rinnegan is the dojutsu of the Rikudo Sennin, Sage of Six Paths. Even if you merely get a transplanted Rinnegan, it grants immense power. I'm able to see chakra as well as its flow within the body and even the activated Tenketsu of the 8 gates. One who possesses the Rinnegan can also easily master any jutsu as well as all 5 nature elements, and create black receivers into which I can transmit my chakra into. For example, he formed a black receiver. These are called the Kuroki Jushinki, chakra receivers. With these I can inject my chakra into those I put them into. Chakra can be transmitted across vast distances, though I usually don't use them at all. The Rinnegan also has the power to control up to 6 bodies called the 6 paths. They're referred to as Tendo, Deva, Shirato, Ajura, Ninjendo, Human, Chikashoto, Animal, Gakido, Preta, and Jigakudo, Naraka. There, however, is one last path called the Gateau, Outer. With the Gateau path, a person could control all 6 paths using additional bodies. He informed them. So what do they do? Anko asked for Kushina and Naomi. The Tendo path allows me to control gravity. The Shirato path grants me the ability to turn my arms into weapons or armor. The Ninjendo path grants me the power to rip out someone's soul and or read their mind, an invaluable ability. The Chikashoto path allows me to summon many animals and animals to fight for me, whether I have a summoning contract for them or not. The Gakido path lets me absorb any and all kinds of ninjutsu. The Jigakudo path allows me to summon and control the King of Hell, a large head mainly used for interrogation. Honestly, it's better for me to show you than tell you. Finally, the Gateau path has the ability to revive the dead, cue the shocked gasps, and those with certain Rinnegan have their own special powers to make them even more overpowered. He shouted, snapping the females out of their stupor. Do you have special Rinnegan powers? Naomi wondered out loud. Due to having the most overpowered Rinnegan in existence, yes I do. Naruto said, thinking back on just how he acquired every single jutsu the Rinne Sharingan had. He acquired Limbo from Madara, seeing how the ancient Uchiha's body had formed with Naruto's during the sealing and absorption. He had stolen a Menotejikura from Sasuke the first time round after absorbing the Uchiha-in chakra. He had acquired the creation of all things from Hagoromo, all-killing Ash Bones, Amina Manaka, and Yamatsu Hirasaka from Kaguya. Add that with unlocking his 9-tomoed Rinne Sharingan, Eternal Mangekyo, and Byakugan from Kaguya and Shin. He was never really in danger of dying either, since his healing factor's speed was unmatched by anything. I am seriously overpowered, he thought before being pulled out of his thoughts by Anko poking his face. Finally. Well, what are they? She grinned brightly at his twitching eye. This was gonna be a long day. Later that day, Anko, Naomi, Kushina all groaned as they entered the house, foregoing dinner in favor of going upstairs to sleep the night away. Naruto walked in shortly afterward with a smirk on his face. After he explained every one of his Rinnegan and Mangekyo powers, he proceeded to train them into the ground brutally. Like he said before, they needed a lot of improvement. Well, Kushina didn't, but Anko and Naomi did. Even though they had gotten rid of Naomi's chakra control problem after he loosened the seal a bit, she needed taijutsu and ninjutsu work along with how to resist powerful genjutsu. Anko needed assistance with fighting with people in straight-up taijutsu, and needed other jutsu than just snakes along with the reserves to handle using said jutsu without passing out or nearly dying. Kushina was perfectly fine where she was for now, seeing how she could easily handle multiple ANBU on her own without exhaustion. Shadow clones were incredibly useful for training purposes, and it showed today. Speaking of Kushina, he got to find out just exactly why her and Naomi hated Konoha with a passion almost as strong as he did. So Minato turned out to be a piece of shit. The usual people were fangirls of Minato, and everyone hates them except the old man, Tsum, and her daughter Hana. Amusing. He thought to himself. In certain dimensions, no one had stood by Kushina and her daughter, or in some cases him, after the Kyuubi attack. Everyone called his death, and if she protected him, they called for hers as well. Another thing, just like in certain dimensions everyone in Konoha hated and despised him, in others they loved him and adored him. After eating dinner and chatting with Tsunami and Tazuna, he resided to the couch and closed his eyes before he felt someone sit on his legs. It was Kushina. She wore a long white t-shirt with the Uzumaki swirl on the back, her red bangs covering her face as the rest flowed down to her butt and over his feet. Something wrong? He asked as he sat up, wrapping an arm around her waist. I just want to thank you. Her voice was soft yet trembling as if she was about to cry. It's not. Her finger pressed against his lips to silence him. Stop talking, she commanded, and Naruto blinked. Before you showed up, I was losing hope. I was giving my all to show those people that their words and taunts never got to me, that no one would touch my daughter or threaten her without losing their life. When Ao showed up, I was honestly hoping he would kill us just to end my daughter's suffering. She didn't deserve to be brought into a world like this. Always putting on a tough front for her, and being comfort when she cried at night when the villagers and shinobis taunting got to her. When you showed up and gave us those memories, you gave us hope again. You gave me hope. The tears were falling freely from the woman's violet eyes. Naruto brought her close and rubbed her back soothingly, whispering sweet words into her ear, calming her down. She gripped his shirt tightly as she sniffed, rubbing her head into his chest. I'm so glad Temari and Mei taught me how to deal with women, he thought, thinking back to his first wives. Eventually Kushina fell asleep, so Naruto carried her up to her room she shared with Anko and Naomi and knocked on it. Naomi peeked out and gasped, Mom! Is she okay? She asked. Yeah, she's just mentally and emotionally tired, Naruto said as he handed Kushina over to Anko, who opened up the door. Thanks, we'll make sure she rests, Anko said. Naruto nodded and went back downstairs. In order to take over this world and not risk draining it dry with warfare, we'll need powerful and influential allies, Yami, Naruto said from the dark depths of Naruto's mind. Indeed, But first we need to see who's who and who's worth converting and who just needs to be put down like dogs. There had been times whereas not even the other Jinchuriki like Naruto, not that he cared. They had treated the Biju like their villages did, with resent, only calling on their chakra to defend themselves and then talking down on them afterwards. Made it easier for him to rip out the tailed beasts and give them freedom. The only ones that continually understood and liked Naruto actually were the tailed beasts themselves, seeing as how they could all bond together in some form of way. Not everyone is worth saving, that I've learned and understood. Naruto muttered as he laid back down on the couch. Those that oppose the Lord of Chaos all die in the end, begging for mercy and forgiveness for their stupidity. Worlds have been conquered, this one will not be any different. With Yami's laughter in his head, Naruto fell asleep with a smirk on his face with one last thought. No, it will not. The next day, once again Naruto was in the woods watching Naomi and Anko battle the clones. Kushina was ordered to sleep. He had 2 clones watching the house and 2 more clones following Tsunami, who had went out for groceries. He snapped his fingers and watched as the clones disappeared, leaving the 2 females confused. Your next opponent will be me, he said as he stood up. Immediately both girls looked terrified. But we aren't ready, Naomi said, backing up when he glared at her. So you're admitting you're a loser? A worthless shinobi? If you don't have the guts to fight someone stronger than you and find a way to beat them, then you are pathetic. Worthless. A waste of time. What good are you anyways? He yelled, taunting her. Hey, don't talk to her like that. Anko yelled upon seeing the rage build up in the girl's face. What are you gonna do about it? Cry with your pillow stuff in your face again? If you aren't going to fight me, then you're just as worthless as she is, snake whore. Those words immediately sent the 2 into a blind rage as they lashed out at Naruto, who simply grinned. Ducking under a kick from Anko, he backhanded Naomi to the ground, then blocked a punch from Anko before kicking her down. Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naomi yelled as 50 clones appeared in the clearing with katanas, the original with the special sword she had been given. Cute, but I've got a better sword. Holding a hand in the air, a sword formed out of thin air into his grasp. Its grip was covered in bandages, the blade completely black though easily showing Naruto's reflection. Naomi and her clones simply growled as they ran towards the Akatsuki. Naruto blocked the first few wild slashes of some clones, and easily dispelled them with a slash across the chest or decapitation. Ducking to avoid a group of snakes aiming for his face, he sent a wordless Shinra Tensei towards Anko, who was pushed into the woods. He jumped back to avoid an explosive tag going off right in front of him and smirked at the blue ball of energy in Naomi's right hand. Looks like you completed the Rasengan after all, I'm shocked. He mocked her. Said girl just screamed with rage as she attempted to attack him with it, only for the ball to self-implode on her, sending her into a tree. Too much chakra, not even balance. He scolded as he dispelled 4 more clones. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu. Naruto whistled in appreciation at the large fire dragon heading his way at a high speed. Looks like her reserves are improving greatly, I'm impressed. He substituted himself with a wood clone nearby in the tree and watched as it melted. He jumped down from the tree just as Naomi pounced on the branch he was at, only to recuperate and surround him with Anko. Ninjutsu's fine lesson 2. He backhanded Anko, then kicked Naomi, sending them both to the ground only for them to get back quickly and rush him. Using his flexibility, he jumped over Anko using her shoulders as springs. However, Naomi, expecting this, slammed another incomplete Rasengan into his face. The same result as before, blowing up, sending all 3 flying back and creating a shockwave that sent all animals in the area that had been watching them scattering for safety. With Kushina. Kushina was currently in a red and white apron, a red shirt, and skin-tight black pants, helping Tsunami with the dishes preparing for dinner. She was thinking back to before Naruto had came in their lives. She was an all-time low before he showed. Whether or not she liked it, it was true. Dealing with when would someone get the balls to attack Naomi or them together at once? When would Jiraiya and Kakashi attack her daughter when they had somehow once broken into their home? When would Danzo and his root attempt to attack them? It was stressful. On top of the fact she didn't trust anyone from Konoha and had to get their food and clothing from outside the village. It was tiring. She was only but one person, as Anko was already disliked heavily due to her past apprenticeship to Orochimaru, and Sim had her own clan and family to worry about. She couldn't ask Hiruzen for much, otherwise that damned village could use that as favoritism and vote him out of office and Danzo in. That was the last thing either of them wanted. The only source of income they got was from S-ranked missions she took and from her friend who was a general in the Fire Daimo's samurai army. So when Naruto showed up, she was more than happy, giving him her loyalty, and so far he hadn't let her down. He wasn't abusive, a pervert, for the most part, or demanding. He just wanted to help them and rebuild her home village, Yuzushiobikure. It didn't matter much to her about the other things she had seen in his memories. From what she saw, he was a hell of a better man than Minato or his loser of a sensei ever was and would be by light years. That's when she heard it. Boom. She looked up instinctively due to her ninja reflexes, looking at the window as she saw a powerful breeze sweep the trees past. Kushina-san, what do you think that was? Tsunami asked. After getting no response, she looked over to see the red-headed woman gone, and the back door open. The woman blinked. She didn't think she could move that fast. Naomi's mindscape. Naruto groaned and sat up to find himself in a sewer. Never thought I'd see this place again, he muttered. Standing up, He walked over to the darkest parts of the sewer and stepped back to avoid a claw from grasping him. "You have far better reflexes than my jailer." Out of the darkness came a large fox head with its mouth snarling, red eyes glaring at the male before it. "Where is Naomi anyways?" he asked. "This conversation does not require that girl, but alas, I can't stop when she chooses to arrive in here." "Damn right you can't, you overgrown carpet," a feminine voice shouted. The fox groaned in annoyance before banging its head against the bars in defeat. "Naruto-kun, why are you here?" "Hey furball, why are we here?" Naomi said, walking over to the cage. "If you'll shut up, I'll show you," it barked back. Naomi looked offended and was about to retort until a hand was placed on her shoulder. She looked over and saw Naruto shaking his head. "You bickering back and forth isn't going to help this relationship prosper," he lectured. Suddenly a red light covered the Kyuubi's head and eventually its entire body. The Biju began to shrink down until its form now resembled a woman. Naomi looked over to Naruto for an explanation only to see him blinking slowly, trying to process it as well. Apparently this was his first time seeing this as well. The light died down, revealing a woman with black hair leading to the middle of her back. Her eyes were red, though you could only see one of them, cute red and white fox ears on the top of her head. She wore a black kimono which protected her huge and womanly curves from being seen, and finally a white tail with red fur coming out of her backside. Naruto was speechless. He had crossed just about every Naruto dimension there was, and he had only seen a female version of Kurama once. He had a better chance of seeing a female Madara than he did a female Kurama. "You're female?" Naomi shouted in surprise. The woman looked annoyed at how loud the teenager was and made it known with her glare. "I've had all female hosts, what did you expect?" She then turned to Naruto, who was still blinking yet not saying anything. "Fox got your tongue?" she taunted with a smirk. The Akatsuki snorted. "Well, excuse me for wondering how the hell you're a woman, seeing how I usually come across males all the time," he said. She sighed before walking up to the bars of the cage, poking her head out. "Your memories are quite interesting indeed. In all my years of being in this damned world, I never thought I'd meet someone that would surpass father's or Kaguya's power so greatly as you do. I was born a woman along with my sisters Matatabi, Isarabi, and Isabu. Out of all of us, we four are the most level-headed and least corrupt." "What do you mean least corrupt?" Naomi asked. "My brothers Son Goku, Kukuo, Saiken, Komiai, and Gyuki became corrupt after father died. They often attempted to try to rule over us, seeing themselves as superior to us because they were male. They corrupt their Jinchuriki hosts, wanting them to believe they're invincible." Naruto frowned. That wasn't usually what happened during these dimension runs. The Biju were usually so relatable. "Anything else? I want to offer my body, heart, soul, and awesomeness to you on one condition," she said. His sweat dropped as she said body and awesomeness. "Why me, and what's the condition?" "For starters, I'd rather be on the side of someone who could easily wipe me out without a mere glance, plus you're quite the looker," she complimented, ignoring Naomi's glare. "Second, I owe it to Kushina and her daughter for letting myself get placed into such a weak genjutsu by yet another Uchiha dog," she snarled. "And the condition? Free my sisters," she pleaded. "I could care less about my brothers, but please, save my sisters from whatever their pathetic and ignorant hosts have become or attempted to turn them into." She looked at him silently, begging, even bowing her head in submission. Naomi was speechless, for the dreaded Nine Tails to be a woman was already mind-boggling, but now she was willingly giving her servitude to him. "Help out Naomi and you have a deal." He waited for a name. "Kiyomi, my name is Kiyomi, and I'll do everything in my power to help her. Especially since I have all of my chakra," Kiyomi said. Naruto smirked and nodded. He could feel himself waking up, and judging from Kiyomi's disappointed look, he was right. "We'll talk later." Real world. Naomi awoke and immediately winced, feeling pain from her right arm. She looked at it only for her eyes to widen. From her hand to her elbow was covered in bandages. It was also still slightly bleeding from the looks of the dark red staining the bandages. She looked up to see Anko, her mom, and Naruto conversating back and forth. "Now that we know where the rest of the tailed beasts are, what's stopping you from taking them now?" Anko asked. "Bandages around her midsection and head due to the explosion the Rasengan caused." "I made you all a promise, didn't I?" he asked, shocking the three. "Even after such a threat has been revealed to you, you still want to put us first," Kushina muttered. Naruto nodded as he picked up Naomi bridal style, causing her to blush. "Now come on, that's enough training for today. Your wounds need to heal, and I'm sure all three of you are hungry." Along with the fact of Kiyomi not shutting off Naomi and instead helping her, changes can be made that will shock that pathetic little village. "What about that Senju bitch, Tsunade? Should she return to the village, our plans will have to be sped up tremendously," Yami reminded him. "Do you believe she is the same?" "Of course she is. It's like every run we take where Kushina's alive. That big-breasted whore believes that the Biju belong to her dead clan, or that she's some top shit because she's Hashirama's granddaughter." In many of their dimension runs, Tsunade was less than pleased to see either him or Kushina and only thought for herself. It was one of the reasons he never truly cared for her nor Jiraiya whatsoever anymore. Both were losers in his opinion. One who drinks and gambles, running away from reality, and sells her companion's body to back off her debt collectors, and the other a self-proclaimed super pervert who wrote smut novels, went in brothels and played with prostitutes, and sexually harassed women and invaded their privacy constantly. However, the lingering of Yami's voice intrigued him. Yes? When you do retrieve the ones Kiyomi's sisters, give them powerful women as their containers. Going off if what she says is true, they'll not only be annoyed but disgusted by their obsolete containers and would immediately take the chance to be given someone who's competent. And whose advice is better to take than the man who freed them. Keep giving me ideas like this, and I'll have no choice but to merge us together completely. Naruto joked. Yami was an incredibly smart tactician, planner, and leader, whereas Naruto himself was a teacher, fighter, and warlord. Even Kami, Yami, and Shini had agreed should the two of them merge into one mind, Naruto would easily be the smartest mind to ever live. I wouldn't mind becoming one again. After all, the only reason I even became a thing was because you liked being so sadistic and wanted to terrorize people with two versions of us. Couldn't argue with him there. When they arrived back to the house, immediately Tsunami, Inari, and Tazuna began asking if they were okay. We're fine, just exhausted from fighting, Anko said. Naomi Nichin, can you teach me how to channel my chakra when you feel better? Inari begged. Sure, Squirt, as soon as someone puts me down. She glared at Naruto, who snorted, then abruptly dropped her on her ass. The redhead squeaked as she hit the floor and glared at the Akatsuki, who walked over and laid on the couch without a care in the world. Jerk! She yelled, rubbing her butt. The three older women giggled before walking over to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Tazuna merely chuckled, then went back upstairs with Inari, who whined about not being able to learn from his Oni-san and Nei-chan. She looked so happy around him. Kushina said with a smile as she watched her daughter jump on Naruto, earning a grunt from the male. I'm eternally grateful to Naruto-san for saving me from being defiled by those dirty men. Tsunami took a moment to shudder upon remembering the memory. I don't want to think what could have happened if none of you had shown up, she said. Anko rubbed the woman's back in a comforting manner. We all owe a lot to Naruto, I just don't know how we can repay him. Mom! Naomi squeaked. The three women looked over to see Naruto holding Naomi in the air above his head. Akatsuki, Naruto, you put her down this instant. Kushina scolded, causing the male to raise an amused eyebrow. You know, that normally works if you're talking to normal people. He chuckled. The red-headed mother stuttered for a bit, her face turning red with embarrassment. Put her down, Baka, she yelled. You want to take her place, Kushina-chan? I'd be happy to hold you in my arms too, he teased. Embarrassed beyond any point ever in her life, Kushina summoned a katana and rushed after Naruto, who wisely took off outside with Naomi laughing following behind them. I've never seen her that happy before, Anko said, feeling slightly jealous. Really? They look incredibly happy with him. It's a shame you won't stay long after you kill Gato, Tsunami said, getting the ramen from the stove. Thanks to Naruto's creation of all things, he had given the family many things they usually had no means of affording. Yeah, it was true. After they had killed Gato and Tazuna rebuilt the bridge, they would head back to Konoha to begin planning for its downfall, and show everyone in the village just how insignificant they truly were. With Naruto, Kushina, and Naomi, Naruto bobbed and weaved as a red-faced Kushina and grinning Naomi slashed their katanas at him. He flipped over both of them before forming hand seals, Gokaki no Jutsu. He spit out a massive fireball that practically roared as it charged at them. The two raised a hand each and shouted, Suetun, Sujin Hiki. Raising a wall of water, they consumed the fireball, putting it out, and sending steam to cover the forest ground. Hopping into a tree above, Kushina looked at Naomi, who was using her senses to find their annoying leader? Friend? Lover? What was he to them? It was due to her shinobi training that at the last second she avoided a kunai aimed for her head. She glared across the trees where she saw Naruto, who was looking bored, twirling another kunai in his fingers, his right eye now sporting the three-tomo Sharingan that was spinning slowly, his left eye still blue. Fighting in an apron, Kushi-chan? He mocked. What'll happen if you lose all your clothes? Said woman got a gleam in her eyes as she grabbed the apron and ripped it away, surprising both Naruto and Naomi, as the woman literally flashed over to where Naruto was, jabbing her katana where Naruto was, only for him to turn into a flock of crows that started pecking at Kushina. Get away from me, you bothersome bastards, she said, swiping at them. She looked at her daughter only to see her fighting Naruto when a hand wrapped around her throat and slammed her against the tree. She was about to curse when she blushed at how close the Akatsuki was to her, their noses just inch apart. She could practically feel his breath on her lips, his blue eyes staring her violet ones. You let your guard down, he criticized. Had I been an enemy, your lack of focus would have gotten you killed. I know. She regained her breath as he let her down and his grip on her throat relaxed. He turned his head to his clone that was toying with Naomi, and judging from her face she was having fun. Naruto released Kushina's throat before snorting at the half-hearted glare she sent him. This is necessary because I don't want none of you dying on me. I can bring you back to life, but it costs me and I'd rather avoid it if possible. What does it cost you? She said, though quietly moving her hand back to her sword. He chuckled quietly. You'll have to do better than that, he thought before his eternal Mangekyo formed. In a flash, their swords were drawn and clashed together in a blurry of slashes, carving up the tree entirely until the top of it fell to the ground, peeling. The two jumped down to the ground floor before engaging again. Naruto ducked and jabbed at Kushina with a thrust aimed for her lungs, though she blocked it, and retaliated with a slash across the chest which healed instantly though destroyed the shirt he was wearing. He wasn't given time to make a perverted comment as he was hit with the memories of his clone dispelling, and then dodging a sword thrust aimed for his back. Backflipping away from the mother and daughter duo that had reunited, he stared down at them impassively, turning into what he dubbed his teacher mode. You both have grown during these short couple of days. You've taken my teachings to heart, you've listened to my words of advice, you even look at me as a potential lover. He grinned at the huge blushes that formed covering their faces before returning his face to its emotionless state. Naruto then activated his Rinne Sharingan that showed 5 tomo instead of 9 this time. However, the sky began to turn dark as rain started pouring onto the 3 of them, drenching all of them and causing their hair to fall over their faces. Now I'm putting what I've taught you to the test. If you survive for the next 3 hours, you pass. If you don't fight with everything you got, I'll kill you. His voice was void of emotion, and honestly it scared the 2 Uzumaki women. They now truly saw why he was a primordial god. Someone with power and rank far beyond anyone they had ever seen. His hair covered his left eye once more, though you could see the purple of the dojutsu easily from time to time. The red of the eternal Mangekyo shining brightly in the dark, almost lulling them to sleep. Any other rules? Kushina asked, barely able to breathe under the raw pressure of the power he was displaying. Kyubi, or now Kiyomi's, was nothing compared to this. Naruto merely tilted his head and Kushina felt offended. He acted like she had just said something dumb. Mom, look out! Naomi shouted at the last minute, tackling her and her mother out of the way. Kushina's eyes widened as a fireball barely missed them, hitting the ground and sending chunks of earth everywhere. Her eyes traveled back up to the branch the Akatsuki previously was to find him gone. Mom, come on! We have a better chance fighting him if we stick together, the younger of the 2 said. Why, yeah, you're right. Refocusing herself, Kushina and Naomi walked back to back deeper into the training forest Naruto had designed to train them in away from civilization and had put barriers up. I wonder how Anko's doing. With Anko glared at the man behind her with a scowl. Mitarashi Anko was many things. Pervert. Sadistic. Psycho. Crazy. Protective. Loyal. Kind to those who deserved it. Awesome. Sexy. Dango lover. But most important of all, she was sensitive. Before Naruto had joined into her life, she was much like Kushina, waiting for someone to get the balls and attack her. All her friends had practically abandoned her when she defended Kushina and her baby. Not that she had many. Kurenai had stopped talking to her and even denounced their friendship after she found out Anko wasn't going to hate Kushina or Naomi. Yugo had also backstabbed her all so she could get on the good side of her higher-ups. Her exact words were, "Do you know what that would do to my reputation if I got seen hanging around the village rejects? Do me a favor and stop talking to me." Hana had for some time stopped talking to her as some of her civilian friends had been killed by Kiyomi, though that was stomped out by Tsum. Unfortunately, neither Anko or Kushina wanted much to do with Hana, seeing how they could easily see the dirty looks Hana gave Naomi from to time. The Akatsuki not only saved her from a fate worse than death, but he was kind to her. He gave her a new goal in life. Like Naomi and Kushina, he had started training her in different things other than what she learned from Orochimaru. Her chakra reserves were like mid-jonin level before she met him, but now they were easily reaching high A and B Hokage level reserves. The only problem she really had was that he tended to spend more time with her sensei and her daughter than her. She knew how fast she was improving compared to Naomi, though it annoying. She was honestly just scared of being forgotten again. She had abandonment issues because of Orochimaru, and she honestly believed they would stay with her forever. Whenever someone was chosen over her for anything, it'd bring back horrible memories. Her current issue as of now, though, was the grinning male who was holding her from behind, ignoring her anger. You know, you look so much more sexy when you're mad, he teased. Red covered her face, both from embarrassment and anger. What do you want? Shouldn't you be training Kushina-sensei and Naomi? She snapped. She winced as his grip tightened and he brought her closer. She could feel his glare staring right through her. Anko, I would never forget about you. Why do you think I'm here right now? Naruto said. The Tokubetsu Jonin shrugged. I know you won't forget me, I just want as much time with you as them. She sighed as his grip loosened as he massaged her ribs. I'll spend more time with you, I promise, he said, gently biting her earlobe, making her mewl. Why send a clone when I could have you? She asked, disappointed as she rested her back against his chest. Training. I need to see how far they'll last going all out against me. He trailed his hands to her stomach and began massaging her. Can I join? She asked, sighing. The clone shrugged, tugging on her ear with her teeth. You could go help them, but you'll need to know exactly what's going on. The purple-haired woman nodded quickly, grinning, and suddenly the clone felt bad for its creator. With Naomi. Naomi ran at full pace through the forest at high speed, panting heavy as she jumped over fallen trees. Everything just went to shit within seconds. Naruto had just jumped down from the trees and full-out attacked them with the intent to kill. He had separated both of them, taking her mom on but sending a clone to chase after her. She didn't know what happened to her mother, but she did know she had to survive this crazy-ass hot cool-all. Thud. Going somewhere? She looked up and paled at the sight of her attacker. He had a scar over his right eye along with blood falling from the cut, his hair covering his left eye along with his two white horns sticking out, though the right one was broke. His Rinne Sharingan had been reverted back to a regular Rinnegan, and his Mangekyo returned to a simple 3-tomo state. His upper body was covered in cuts, slashes, and burn marks, his right arm completely black, and his shinobi pants in tears. Hey Naruto-kun, where's Ka-chan? She said, shaking. You'll be joining her soon. Her eyes widened before they narrowed and a snarl covered her face. You killed her? She shouted at him, though her anger didn't even seem to faze him. Naruto shrugged. I told you what would happen. It's not my fault she couldn't survive long enough. Red chakra started to swarm around the girl. Her teeth sharpened, her nails turned into claws, her eyes turned blood red, pupils turned to slits, and 4 tails split from her backside. I'm going to break you, she growled out before lashing out at her fellow redhead. Naruto jumped away at the last second, avoiding being clobbered by 2 tails. He whistled in appreciation as he saw the chunk of earth missing from the ground before flashing through one-handed seals, Katan, Ryuan Hoka no Jutsu, blowing out several dragon-headed fireballs at Naomi. He already prepared for another attack, seeing the teen flash through hand seals with an enhanced speed. Looks like being more in tune with Kiyomi instead of being separate gives her better reaction timing, but there's one thing I never understood. What does Kiyomi mean having all her chakra? Didn't Minato seal half and half? Naomi summoned 4 clones that summoned giant water walls, managed to block out 3 of the fireballs, but 4 still managed to hit Naomi, and her clones sending steam to cover the area. The Akatsuki jumped into the air, shouting with a roar, Katan, Goenka. Kneading and converting his chakra to fire, he created multiple fireballs, sending them down at Naomi, who retaliated with a multitude of earth barricades to cover herself. Those shelters won't save you, Uzumaki, he muttered. Upon making contact with their target, or the ground, debris went everywhere as the fireballs exploded, sending roaring flames and loud noises everywhere. With both the rain roaring down on them and the flames of fire still burning on around them, the air on the ground could easily knock you out and kill you by itself. The red-headed male dropped to the floor with a thud, the soft soil underneath his feet mushy from the heat. Sensing something from his right side, he stepped back and avoided a katana slash from cutting him in two. His would-be attacker had red hair, a torn and half-burned Jonin vest, her black shirt ripped, her shinobi pants torn, and her mouth dripping blood. Her exposed skin had cut slashes and her breathing was heavy. So you survived after all, Kushina, he clicked his tongue in annoyance. Said Redhead just growled at him before swinging her sword at him again. He chose to block it this time, easily pushing her back. He rounded on her quickly, slashing from left to right, catching her off guard with a cut across the arm that made her stagger. Kushina, though, to her credit, recovered fast and kicked him in his side, earning a grunt. She even headbutted him, making him stumble back and draw blood. Do tell me, Kushina, how did you survive? I'm quite curious, Naruto asked. I'm a Uzumaki. I always find a way, Tebane, she responded, scowling. He returned her scowl with one of his own. My Amaterasu flames should have killed you, and by some small chance you lived. How did you escape the tree prison and its poisonous gas? If there always is one thing about this woman, her Uzumaki genes help her escape many things thought to be impossible, Yami said. It's quite annoying, Naruto replied. I thought you wanted her alive? Are you trying to kill them on purpose? I do. I just need to see how strong she is for when our plans go into action. Kiyomi's chakra still runs through my system, making me immune to any and all poisons known in the elemental nations, she grinned. Aside from the fact I'm a Uzumaki and former Jinchuriki, I'm a Akatsuki descendant just like you, Databeo. I can adjust to anything, she said proudly before charging him with more force and power than before. Naruto, now on the defense, was impressed with Kushina's focus. Her strikes were more on point, though still not hitting him, carried more power, and were quicker. What's wrong? Scared now? Surprised Kushi-chan has you on the run now? She taunted, chasing after him as he backflipped onto the side of a tree. Naruto's focus was mainly on the growing amount of chakra coming from where Naomi was and the incoming source of chakra, which he presumed was Anko. Fight back, idiot! Don't ignore me! Kushina shouted. The woman soon got her wish as a fist went straight into her stomach and knocked all the air out of her lungs before getting grabbed by her hair and thrown into the ground. She climbed out of the small crater her impact caused and glared at Naruto, who smirked at her. We've passed the 2-hour mark, but I'm having way too much fun to end this. Besides, I doubt Anko and your daughter want to end it either. Kushina's eyes widened before she looked back where she sensed her daughter laying and gasped. Covered in a layer of red chakra was Naomi. It was also clear, judging from her body, that her beatdown had cause for changes to be made. Her red hair, once smooth and laid down, had turned spiky, going down to her mid-back, shoulder-length bangs framing her face, covering most of her left eye. It's basically Madara's hairstyle, but red and shorter. Her whiskers marks thickened, her face lost whatever fat was left, and her eyes were cold. Her long-sleeved shirt that had one sleeve torn off showed her already impressive bust was even larger than before, rivaling Kushina's now. Her height, once at 5 feet 2 inches, now was also at 5 feet 5 inches. Naomi-chan? Kushina was shell-shocked at the new development. At that moment Anko chose to arrive. The sexy Anko-sama is here to SA. Her words died in her throat at the sight of the new Naomi. She looks so hot. Anko was by all means straight, but she couldn't deny when another person of the same sex was incredibly attractive. Did not see that coming, Naruto muttered. Whatever Kiyomi had did obviously helped Naomi. Whether it was for getting in his favor or fighting-wise, he had a good feeling this blessing was going to make taking over this timeline even easier. Naomi's eyes softened as they met with her mother's concerned ones. What happened to you, sweetie? She asked. When I got knocked unconscious, she took a moment to glare at Naruto, who just crossed his arms. She told me she had a surprise for me, as an apology of sorts for our lives being so shitty. This was her apology? Anko exclaimed, oogling the teen. Naomi nodded, causing her hair to flow. It'll take a few hours for my mind to adjust to everything she told me about, but I can tell you this. My body has been adjusted to the point where I look like an adult. Aside from a few changes I wanted myself, my chakra control feels so much better. Aside from the jutsu Naruto-kun showed and taught me, Kiyomi gave me super strength. The male of the group groaned, sensing a headache. Super strength? He had a feeling it was far stronger than the senjus would ever be, but still. Naomi now knew many different taijutsu stances and had super strength. Could this get any better / worse? My reserves were already massive before, but now it's like they have no end. I can go up to 6 tails of her chakra without losing control. She said my speed should have a massive increase, and fire was also now one of my primary elements along with air. It got worse. Both groaned, mentally feeling the headache about to occur. Once again, he wasn't in any real danger. That being said, judging from how much Kiyomi truly provided Naomi with, she could easily be as strong as Rinnegan Madara, if not stronger. And that guy was annoying to fight. He just spammed Susanoo, Chibaku Tensei, and Tengai Shinsei all day because he couldn't get close enough to use the Jigakudo Path's abilities. So what happened to Kiyomi? Anko asked after absorbing all the new information she had just been told. She might be out for a couple weeks. She used a lot of her chakra to make this work for me. Naomi rubbed the back of his neck, blushing slightly at the real reason Kiyomi made the physical adjustments for her so defined. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go kick his ass. Anko shouted, pointing at the eye-twitching Naruto. Yatebane! With Naomi-chan and her new awesome powers, we'll show him what happens when you mess with us. Kushina supported, her eyes sparkling as she raised her sword in Naruto's direction. With Naomi stepping in front of them, she grinned, showing some of her teeth and how sharp they were as her eyes turned to slits. Charge! I need an aspirin. I wonder if those 3 hotties up there looking at us. Multiverse, throne room. Kami, Yami, and Shini all sneezed at the same time repeatedly. Is it allergy season already? Yami mumbled. No, just Naruto-kun thinking about us again. Kami sighed, saddened that her favorite person was out screwing with yet another timeline. It's so boring without him here. Shini whined. Blame AOS dumbass for going into a timeline where all the girls Naruto-kun liked have developed bodies. You're kidding? Yami looked at her sister in shock. The goddess shook her head. They look nothing like they did as kids or young teenagers. Aside from the fact the female Biju will change a few things to appease Naruto, they'll look like they did as young adults. Shini suddenly grabbed her sister by her dress, nearly ripping it. You mean all of them have the power to make him stay there and fuck them until they grow old? She yelled. The woman nodded, causing Shini to drop her, then slumped to the floor depressed. There's something about those women that turns Naruto-kun into an insatiable monster. Kami said. They really missed their lover and fellow god. With Naruto and the girls, Naruto clicked his teeth as he dodged a katana slash from Kushina, used a kunai to cut 2 snakes sent by Anko, and backflipped to avoid being turned into splattered meat by Naomi. As his right eye bled, Naomi shouted, "Look out!" sending the other 2 women and herself scattering for cover as Naruto unleashed the black flames of Amaterasu. The flames instantly consumed the spot where they were at, turning it to literal ash and covering everything in the vicinity. In the trees, Naomi stared at the target of her affections with cold eyes. I'll show you just how strong I am, then I'll tie you up and lock you in a room with me and Findash. And finally, I'll show you what it's like to get dominated by a god. She shrieked and jumped before turning around, getting a foot to the face, sending her into another tree. Rounding on her again with a punch, he barely missed her by an inch, ending up with his hand going straight into the trunk. Great, he ripped his arm out, scowling at the splinters now lodged into it. Our turn. Naomi grinned as Kushina and her got in front of him. Suetun, Suryuden no Jutsu. The 2 formed large dragons that shot at Naruto, knocking him back with the force of the water. Before he could respond, Anko jumped out, forming hand seals. Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Launching a fireball into the back of Naruto, the Akatsuki was sent flying further into the forest. Stay together. If we overwhelm all at once, we'll easily beat him, Kushina said as the trio went into the forest after him. Immediately they heard laughter after Kushina's words of encouragement. Don't lie to them, Kushina. You know firsthand just how easily I can overpower you. In fact, I think I might just show you how futile this really is. On command, roots thrust from out the ground, wrapping around Naomi, forcing her to the ground. Shortly afterwards, Kushina was kicked into Anko, who was grabbed and pulled underground, leaving only her head for her to breath. Naruto appeared from out the ground with a tanto in his hand, pointing at the elder Uzumaki. I've already incapacitated both Anko and Naomi. Show me how strong you are, Kushina, he challenged. With pleasure, the Uzumaki woman replied, almost flashing in front of the male with a burst of speed, clashing swords with him. She was immediately put on the defensive as Naruto brought down a powerful slash every time he swung at her. Even with a standard tanto, the Akatsuki proved he was once again better than her when it came to every aspect of fighting. Naruto, sensing the chakra buildup from Naomi and eventually her breaking free of the roots, raised his palm at Kushina, Shinra Tensei. Blowing her back, he turned around in time to catch Naomi's fist aiming for his face. the ground cracking underneath the pressure of her chakra-enhanced punch. Mangekyo and Rinnegan eyes stared into red-slit eyes, both of them not willing to give up any ground, though Naomi had a feeling she'd lose this very fast. That new look really suits you. I might have to fight off fanboys to defend what's mine. He teased and was rewarded with a heavy blush from the girl. The teenager's scowl intensified, though her red face made the fierce glare look even more cute. Idiot. We're fighting and that's what you say. You make it so easy. He pulled her by her fist, taking the surprised girl off her feet and throwing her into a tree. His Mangekyo swirled as he spun around and caught a sword strike, aiming for his rip, the weapon from the surprised Uzumaki. He kneed her in the stomach before hitting her in the jaw before headbutting her. Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu. Smoke cleared and he widened his eyes to see hundreds of Kushinas and Naomis. Let's go! One of them yelled as they all charged, yelling and shouting encouragement. Naruto grinned as the first few clones ran up on him, his Mangekyo spinning wildly. Enten, Hano Ikazuchi. Dodging the first few punches, he surrounded himself with Amaterasu flames that turned into spikes, impaling then dispelling the clones. He summoned his katana just in time to block a strike from a clone and return the favor with a decapitation. Backflipping into the air, he spewed out a large fireball that instantly burned 20 clones. A few of Kushina's clones came up with an idea and acted on it, forming chakra chains and wrapping them around Naruto's limbs, binding him. A large gathering of chakra made Naruto look forward, and he was shocked to see 5 Naomis running at him with 5 red Raisengans that obviously had Kiyomi's chakra infused into them. As soon as they were a couple feet from him, his Rinnegan was revealed with 6 Tomo showing. In a second, he seemingly escaped the chains, and in his place was a clone of his station by. He looked at their shocked faces and smiled. A Menotajikara gives the ability to shift locations of myself, others, objects, and ninjutsu. He then turned his attention to his clone. With the clones already in front of him, the clone grinned and uttered the words Kai. The area blew up, sending whatever clones didn't dispel in the explosion into trees where they did dispel. There was quite literally a crater the size of the moon in the ground where the clone was. Still alive, I see, Naruto said, sensing Naomi behind him. I've still got more trick up my sleeve, she said, breathing heavily. Judging from how low her chakra was, she was running on fumes and was close to unconsciousness. Enough, you've improved a lot, Naomi. I'm proud of you. He praised her. She stopped in her tracks hearing the compliments and praise, but before she could say anything he was behind her. Now rest. Her world went back as she collapsed in his waiting arms. Underneath Amigekure, Akatsuki hideout, 5 figures stood around a round table in silence, digesting the new information brought before them. They all wore black cloaks that had red trimming and red clouds. The first figure was a tall man that had medium-length spiky orange hair, 6 piercings that donned his face, a metal bar through each of his ears, 3 studs through the side of his upper nose, and 1 spike stud on each end of the upper lip. On his right finger, he wore a purplish-gray ring that had the kanji for 0 on it. His eyes, however, were the real shocker. They were the same as both Naruto's, the Rinnegan. The second figure was a woman that had short, straight lavender hair with a bun, amber eyes, lavender eyeshadow, and elaborate piercing. She had a large light blue paper flower clipped on her bun. On her right middle finger was a ring with the kanji for white. The third figure was also a woman. She had onyx eyes, under which were long, pronounced tear troughs. She had jet black hair that was pulled back into a ponytail. His face was framed by center-parted bangs. Through the unzipped view of her cloak, she wore mesh armor with a necklace that had 3 silver rings with red gems inside them. On her right finger was a red ring that bore the kanji for vermilion. The fourth figure was a man. Th3 cloak covered his body as he had the hood concealing his hair with the orange mask with a spiral pattern focused around his right eye. On his right hand, he wore a purple ring with the kanji for jewel. The final figure was a plant creature thing. It had 2 sides of color, one white, one black. On its sides were Venus flytrap-like extensions enveloping their his ANS upper body like a shell. Its hair was green, short, and spiky hair along with golden eyes. It wore on its right finger a green ring with the kanji for sign of the boar. The masked man spoke. Zetsu, is this information accurate? The creature nodded. Yes, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki has been receiving help from an outside source. It nodded. How is this possible? From what Itako said, Konoha and its people despised the Jinchuriki and the Uzumaki clan head, who would assist them. This time it was the Lavender woman who spoke, and that is still true. No one except for the Sandaime and Inuzuka clan head care for them and would see their skeletons hanged and their skin burned off. The now identified Uchiha spoke. The orange-haired male stayed silent, seemingly staring into space as if in deep thought. We have not been able to identify who this person is, nor have we been able to detect them. Why do we not move on their location now? The Rinnegan user finally spoke. Former Jinchuriki or not, Uzumaki Kushina will not stand a chance against me. Your arrogance shows greatly. Madara barked. The bun-haired woman glared at the masked man with a scowl. Pain is a god. A feeble woman such as the Uzumaki will not be a threat to him in the least. You clearly are stupid. Uzumaki Kushina survived getting a biju forcefully taken from her, stabbed by said biju, and then willed herself and her child to safety. The woman is on a level you will never grace, and you should tread carefully when approaching her. The woman then glared at Zetsu at the shot at her intelligence. Then what is your plan? Pain now spoke. We're speeding up the recruiting process and waiting to make our move. We still are 3 members short. Why not just extract the 9 tails and eliminate a potential threat now? Conan questioned. Itako answered it this time. Why risk early exposure to the world? They'll more than likely be around civilians or in a town, and wiping out an entire town will draw unwanted attention towards us. We will do nothing for now, but should the Kyuubi Jinchuriki grow too strong, both her and her mother will be dealt with. Am I clear? With heads nodding at the table, Madara ended the meeting. Zetsu, monitor them. I want to know everything they do. With a nod, the plant being sunk into the ground. No one will ruin my chance to be with Rinchan again. Naruto sat on the edge of the complete bridge with a bored sigh. You'd think the fat fuck would have showed up by now after all his men in the town never reported back. He muttered. Naomi snorted. I doubt someone like him cares much about his own lackeys as long as he gets to scurry away. She said, think he'll have some shinobi with him? Been itching to show off how much more of a badass I am. Anko boasted. Anko, with our luck, we'll run into some missing nin. Kushina said, rolling her eyes. The 4 were currently watching over Tazuna and his men, who were cheering due to the fact they had finally completed the bridge. After so many months of pain and suffering, we're finally free. One guy shouted, and ear-nay cheers of approval. What the hell is this shit? A voice came from across the bridge. A short, pudgy man with shaggy brown hair, small circular black glasses, a black suit with a perp tie, and closed-toed shoes stood across the water with an army of thugs with all kinds of weapons. Such a foul mouth, Naruto mocked. I suppose you're Gato? You're damn right I am. Who the fuck are you, and why the fuck is that bridge builder still alive? He yelled. What's wrong with Tazuna being alive? Enough of this. Kill the men. The fat businessman then took a look at Anko, Kushina, and Naomi and grinned lecherously. And take the women. They'll be great whores. The man and his army of thugs suddenly froze as a shit ton of killing intent was sent towards them, and it was none other than the women he had just suggested would be whores. I am no one's whore! Anko and Naomi yelled as they began tapping into their own respective demonic power, Anko's curse mark and Naomi's chakra mode. In a flash the two were across the bridge, ripping apart the bandits limb from limb. Monsters! You two are monsters! One bandit yelled before his throat was ripped out. Leave Gato alive, I have something better for him. Naruto ordered, and though the girls gave no visible reaction, he knew they heard him. And what would that be? Kushina asked. I need his base's location. The money and anything else thing will be valuable for the citizens of Wave. His face then grew dark. Plus it's clear the man and his associates have no trouble with raping women and turning them into lesser things. Kushina's face also turned into a scowl at what lesser things meant, and she despised it. She knew about the darker missions kunoichi were sometimes forced, and some even volunteered for after having nothing to live for. They became by all means whores, sluts, slaves, cum-dumps, and every other demeaning and demoralizing name one could call a woman. The downside to such missions was the women never came back the same, their minds were gone, the only thing they could think about afterwards was sex. It was so horrible that not even Yamanaka such as Inoichi would willingly dive into their minds because of what they had been through. She had no doubt had Minato team not saved her from those Kumo shinobi, she would have been turned into breeding stock with all kinds of bastards touching her body. And what if they are too far gone? I'll put them out of their misery. Their conversation was cut short when Naomi and Anko returned and dropped Gato in front of them and said man had a piss stain that showed even through his black pants. Wait, please don't kill me. I can give you anything. Money, land, women, jewelry, weapons, whatever you need. Just please don't kill me. The man begged. Tell me where your little hideout is and I'll consider it. Naruto said and watched as the man's face changed from fear to rage. Absolutely not. You won't get to my money or the bitches I have there. The man stared defiantly into the redhead's eyes until he pissed himself a second time as said redhead grabbed him by his throat and lifted him off the ground, having him dangle his feet and scratch at the arm holding his throat in an iron grip. Who said I was asking? Nariti said as he formed his Sharingan and extracted said information forcefully before dropping the farm man on his back. What do we do with him, Naruto-kun? Naomi asked. The Otsutsuki thought about it for a minute before placing a seal on the man's forehead. A cursed seal? Anko asked, confused. Naruto shook his head. It stops him from dying despite whatever injuries he sustains. Suddenly all eyes were on Gato, who whimpered in fear at the bloodthirsty grins. Tazuna, round up every one of your townsfolk. It's time they got revenge. Kushina shouted, grabbing the businessman by his collar and dragging him in the direction of the town. Right away. The bridge builder replied with a grin on his face that couldn't be wiped off his face by anything. His fellow workers were the same, as they all quite literally sprinted their way home to tell everyone the spectacular news. Can we come with you? Naomi's voice stopped her leader as he began walking away. No. His voice gave a definite answer, meaning there would be no discussion involved. What? The two yelled, shocked he would deny them the opportunity to torture someone who deserved it. I didn't stutter, the answer's no. I don't know how bad it is in there, and some of that stuff is too strong for either one of you to see. We're not children. You trained us and prepared for anything. You can't just shelter us. Naomi shouted, but soon flinched at the glare Naruto sent her. Do you think I care about that? You three are people I hold dearly, and if I can spare at least some of the horrors humans have to spare, then damn it, that's what I'll do. Before the two could utter a sound, he was gone in a swirl. He really cares for us, Anko managed to say. Yeah, Naomi added and felt her heart beat. Was this the feeling her mother told her about as a child? Despite having doubt, Kushina always believed the right man would come along and win her daughter's heart and treat her like a princess. Gato's estate. Naruto appeared in the front gates of the mansion and inspected the surroundings. It looked to have over 50 guards from the faint chakra signatures civilians gave off. Guess I'll be stealthy just this once. After sneaking his way past the guards at gate and inner landscape, he made his way inside the luxurious house itself and was planning on going for the safe first until he heard voices and moaning. And, if you are uncomfortable with torture scenes involving children, please skip this part and scroll to where you see the next bold characters. Turning his head down a hallway, his eyes narrowed at what he saw. A woman, another thug if the clothes and weapons on the ground were any indication, was servicing 5 dudes. 2 guys were thrusting in and out of her ass, and while a third thrusted into her mouth, while the final 2 she jerked off. And by the lustful look in her eyes, the woman was enjoying it. Aren't you glad you got rid of your bratty little daughter to have some fun with us instead? One of the thugs said and laughed as the woman nodded and sucked him off with more vigor. Forget about that brat. She couldn't even suck me off right despite her mom showing her all the steps to do it. He scowled in the direction of said girl, and Naruto saw red at what came into his vision. A girl, no younger than 10 years old, was on the ground covered in sperm. A pool of blood puddled around her head, and her eyes wide open, stating she was very much awake a few seconds before he arrived. He growled with bloodlust shown clearly in his eyes. He came around the corner activating his EMS and walked in the direction of the group. Hey! Who are you? One of the thugs yelled and notified his fellow thugs about the approaching redhead. The woman noticed too but ignored him in favor of sucking more dick. Whose child is that? He asked calmly, though he fully knew and simply wanted to know if the woman was a piece of shit or she had just been raped to the point where she thought of nothing but cock. Why, that would be hers. One of them chuckled as he gripped the woman's hair and smirked as she moaned from the harsh treatment before glaring at the new arrival for interrupting her fun time. Do you not love your child? Naruto asked the woman and stared impassively as she stood up and exposed her less than attractive body that had semen covering it, and glared at him even more. If she can't even provide any use, then no. The annoying fuck just complained about how much it hurt, and kept crying, so we shut her up. She laughed at the end before seeing her comrades get impaled by wood shooting out of the ground. I don't find mentally and physically abusing your kin funny. I don't find killing your child funny. And I sure as hell don't find you getting your slutty holes filled while your daughter is over against the wall bleeding out. Naruto growled. The woman went for a kunai and lunged at the redhead in rage. How dare you kill my friends and tell me to care for some worthless brat? Naruto easily dodged at her attack and slammed her into the wall before jabbing the kunai she had into her head and letting it hold her body to the wall. Worthless brat? It'll be that worthless brat that decides your fate at the gate of hell, he said before walking down the stairs to a basement and sniffing out more hormones. This place reeks of death and sex, and I have a feeling I know what was killed, Yami said. If such a thing happens to be a possibility, I'll wipe this entire house off the face of the planet. Opening the door leading to a large room which he concluded was where they held women, his eyes widened upon what he saw. Death, chains, women, blood. No, mommy, stop. I'm sorry. His eyes traveled and filled with rage as a woman beat a child with what looked like a metal bar. Shut up. You should have thought about this before biting Toshiku's dick. Now I won't get to have any. I've had enough of you always fucking up, you little shit. The woman yelled, ignoring the infant's pleas and apologies. Another child, between the age of 7 or 8, was being sat on by a thug while a woman sucked him off and ignored the child's cry for his mother to help him. Yet another child, a little girl, was getting hit by a woman because a thug told her he'd spend more time with her if she made the little fuck pay for not giving him top. Monsters, Naruto said quietly, and somehow it traveled throughout the room despite the moaning, grunting, yelling, and cries effectively silencing everyone. What? Who are you? A thug shouted as he stood up abruptly and got into the redhead's face despite still having his glory known to the world. Not that it was much to show off, mind you. His answer was given to him when a hand grabbed his throat and slammed him into the wall, threatening to choke him. A hit came at Naruto's back. Put Toshikun down, freak. He didn't do anything wrong to you, so leave him alone. Naruto looked the woman over and scowled in disgust, seeing she was the same woman he had just saw beat her child to death. Why did you kill that child? He questioned. Sure, he could just kill her, but he wanted to hear it come from the woman's mouth. Why? Why? You want to know why I killed that little bastard? She can't do anything right. How hard could it be to suck dick? I did it easily, so why can't she? And then she hurt Toshikun, which meant I couldn't get fucked. She yelled, clearly thinking what she had said made sense. It didn't. So you killed your child because you couldn't stop being a slut? The women in the room had the audacity to look shocked and then glared at the man. Of course. I never wanted this stupid brat. I just wanted to be fucked, and I won't have some annoying brat ruin it for me. One yelled as Naruto saw behind her was a dead child with his head split open and dried blood around the wound. It was then he noticed that there were many more corpses throughout the room, and all of them were children, whether covered in sperm from being raped to death or killed. It was then at that point Naruto realized none of these monsters could be saved. To be raped until your mind broke, he could understand, but willingly forsaking your child for sex was unforgivable and made your life forfeit. Now give us Toshi-kun or we'll make you, the woman demanded. Crack! Toshi's body fell to the floor lifeless, his neck broken. The women looked at the murderer in fear along with the other thugs in the room. Don't worry, I'll reunite you whores with him soon enough, Naruto said, tapping into his Biju power unconsciously. Freak! One cried. You're a monster! Another shouted. Murderer! The women shouted but were silenced by the laughter that came from Naruto. You call me a monster, yet you disregard the safety of your children to get your rocks off. No matter, once I'm done with you, you'll wish you had treated your kids right, he snarled before attacking the now screaming women and men. And coast is clear for the squeamish. With Kushina, Naomi, and Anko, the three hummed peacefully as they watched Gato get ripped apart by the civilians of Wave. Such a nice punishment for him, don't you think? Kushina asked. Easily. They're really giving it their all too, Anko said as she watched a woman kick the man repeatedly in the balls. I wonder how Naruto-kun's doing, Naomi said, earning grins from Anko and Kushina. Geez, we love him too, but you're head over heels for him. Kushina giggled. Yeah, he's on your mind 24/7. Anko added with a grin. Naomi blushed and was about to yell at them when she felt the ground shake. She just looked to her mother and Anko, and it was clear they felt it too. What was that? She asked. Naruto's probably in danger. No sooner than the words left her mouth, Anko and Naomi stormed off in direction of where the minor earthquake came from. The red-headed woman sighed and facepalmed. Such a handful, Tebane, she muttered before rushing off to catch up with them. Konoha, Hokage Tower. Hiruzen once could say he was proud of being the Hokage and leader of his village, to lead honorable men and women into wars defending his sensei's will of fire with his life. Now, however, Konoha had become a shell of its former self. Its civilians and shinobi had become arrogant, cocky, demanding, and corrupt. Even its government had become laid back, corrupt, and cruel. His thoughts went to the three people the village despised as a whole. Uzumaki Kushina, Uzumaki Naomi, Midarashi Anko. One happened to be the student Orochimaru betrayed and left behind to fend for herself. One was a girl who was unwillingly made a Jinchuriki of the Biju that attacked the village at birth. And the last was the mother of said girl. Given how Kushina had taken in Anko and treated the girl like family, when the time came around for Anko to choose her sensei and be a follower like everyone else, Anko chose family and was hated even more for it. Kushina was the wife of the deceased Yondaime Hokage, though only few knew of this, a Uzumaki, considered a dirty foreigner by the village, and the mother of a child who had the 9 tails sealed within her. Kushina had also went through death threats, abandonment by her students and closest friends, and various attacks on the lives of both and her child, yet repelled each and every one, showing why the woman was the strongest and most feared kunoichi in all the elemental nations. And finally, Naomi was the said child that held the demon itself. The girl was hated from the moment she could fully breathe or make a sound, cursed and scorned by the people around her. Her death was demanded by quite literally everyone, and when that didn't happen, they attempted to sabotage her shinobi training at the academy, only to find out she could answer just about everything thrown at her, and refused to be bullied or disrespected by anyone. Thus why he currently had the displeasure of looking into the faces of his old friends and teammates, though either one of them saw him as such, and neither did he. They had proven such a thing wasn't worth anything. Every single day they attempted to usurp his command and challenged every single thing he did. The first was a woman, Koharu, who wore a simple long kimono, closed by an obi, a jacket, and a sash over it. Her hair is pulled into a twin bun locked by a hairpin with 2 pearls dangling off the side. The second was a male, Hamura, who had gray hair, a beard, glasses, and similar robes like Hiruzen did as Hokage. The final was a man, Danzo, who appeared as a frail, old man, who walked with a cane. He had black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged while wearing a white shirt, with a black or dark gray robe over the top of it covering from his feet. For the last time, Hamura, I will not punish Kushina for putting several shinobi in the hospital after they provoked and attacked her first. For the last time, Koharu, the Uchiha will not receive training from several jonin, he already has one and that is more than enough. And for the last time, Danzo, I will not give you Naomi for you to train her. He told them and watched as they all scowled at the same time. This is unacceptable. You gave that Uzumaki wench and her demonic daughter another jonin to assist her, yet you refuse to give Uchiha-sama the tools he needs to kill Itako and remain loyal to our cause? Koharu shouted. I agree. I won't stand silent while that foreigner puts our shinobi in the hospital for doing their duty and ridding the village of their wretched stench. Hamura added. The Sandaime glared at the two and they both flinched as a reflex. Both the elders, civilian council, and the village as a whole had expected the Sandaime to be a pushover now due to his old age, and that would allow them to make many changes that would be more beneficial to them. They were wrong. The man had come back strong as if he were in his prime. An authoritative presence that inspired fear both in and out of Konoha. He wasn't going to be manipulated by anyone or anything, and he made that clear. Of course, there had been those that challenged his command, such as the late Uchiha Fugaku, Hamura, Koharu, and mainly Danzo, though they quickly realized such an idea was not smart. The Uzumaki woman is not loyal to this village, everyone knows this. She is a danger that must be eliminated, and her daughter must be brought to her knees for re-education to serve the village. Danzo said, I don't blame Kushina nor Naomi for not being loyal to this village for all the things you've attempted to do to them behind their back. Sarutobi replied, it was all in the name of Konoha. I refuse to allow that abomination and whore walk around the village as if they own it. We are their superiors, their betters, and we deserve to be treated as such. Danzo defended, the Uzumaki have always been foreigners and will stay foreigners in this village. Hamura added, which is why we demand all knowledge about the Uzumaki clan be removed from the Shinobi Library and Shinobi Academy, burned, and all jutsu regarding that bastard clan be given to our shinobi who will put it to better use than be hoarded by that Uzumaki woman who refuses to show us anything. Koharu finished. Sarutobi's face remained stoic and blank for a few seconds before standing up. First of all, the Uzumaki clan was just as responsible as the Senju, if not more than the Uchiha, for the founding of this village. If I recall correctly from what my own eyes saw and from what Hashirama-sensei told me, it was Uzumaki Mito who assisted him in wringing control from Madara when he ensnared the Kyuubi in his Sharingan, and eventually sealed the Biju within her. It was Uzumaki Mito who eventually married Hashirama-sensei and became his wife. Hashirama was a fool to marry that pathetic woman. Hamura shouted and paled as he felt Ki explode from the elderly Kage. Disrespect my sensei or interrupt me again, and you'll find retirement coming closer. Second, I will not be removing anything about the Uzumaki clan from the academy, library, and I will certainly not be taking anything from Kushina that belonged to her since her birthright. She is a Konoha shinobi, and therefore whatever she has in her possession, whether it be family scrolls, jutsu, techniques, seals, or whatever belonged to us by right. Koharu shouted, is that the case for the Uchiha boy as well? Hiruzen asked and watched as the two began turning red with rage. How dare you compare Uchiha-sama to the likes of that bitch? You're crossing the line, Hiruzen. Hamura snarled. Remind yourself of your place, councilman. All it takes is for one slip-up on your part, and I can have you executed within the hour. All three teammates of the Sandaime looked shocked at this, even Danzo. Very well, Hiruzen, though remember this well. The shinobi's trust in you has been wavering ever you decided to stick up for the Uzumaki. It'll only be a matter of time before they feel a new Hokage should be elected who will answer their cries about the demon brat. Danzo said as the three elders prepared to leave the office, but were shaken by his cold response as they exited out the door. Should such an event happen, I do not worry for the safety of Kushina-chan nor her daughter or even Enko-chan. Instead, I worry for those foolish enough to believe a woman who survived being attacked and stabbed by the Kyuubi's claws and the very container of said beast will simply die or be brought to your heels like you all think they will. Hiruzen shortly afterwards continued with his paperwork, which was mostly demands of the Shinobi Academy being made easier for the civilians and Kushina and Naomi being executed, which he obviously denied. As long as he could, he would try his best and preserve what little remained of his sensei's will of fire in the village.